So, Miranda, can you please try to speak again so we can work out our volume?
Yep, can you hear me?
Okay. We sure can. Thank you.
So, to see.
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so to see the presentations, we'll each have to log in though.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Is that gonna do that? Because
It's gonna destroy the internet.
Well, we can look on maybe double it. So thank you for your patience, everyone, and those of you from the public.
Mason, you might have to rise the volume of this mic for different people.
Right.
And there's gonna be feedback the whole time.
Apologize for the technological challenges. Let's see, we are all trustees. You're gonna need to log on. Well, we're doing that. We'll log on so we can see the presentations. Any other details? Thank you. So welcome everyone. It's October 3rd, 2023 at 7:20. We're going to start our BOT meeting. Macy, call the roll.
Mayor Billy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol,
I'm contacting him now.
Here.
Oh, great.
Trustee Corvalon,
So she may have left because, just a reminder, we did just tell all the online users that the meeting would start at 7:30.
Want me to text her?
That would be great.
please. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Trustee Consisma,
Here.
Trustee Mountain,
I'm here.
Trustee Severs,
He's walking here
okay,
from about a block away.
and Trustee Sterling.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Ah, there it
Trustee
is.
Severs just joined us in the room.
Whoop, whoop.
Let's go.
Thank you.
See our high-tech setup.
So our first thing will be a consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. Do any of the trustees have any questions on the consent items?
No, sir.
Hearing none, I move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mason?
Second.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion in 2 seconds. Macy?
Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Consisma,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Miranda, can you please let me know if Trustee Corvalon has joined us yet?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Corvalon, we're approving the consent agenda.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Miranda, didn't you say 7:30?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
We went and got it going quicker. That's why I texted you. Thanks. The consent agenda has been approved. And we'll move to public comment on non-agenda items. We have one that was
If nobody else goes, I've got a couple items.
I think we just lost audio in the room.
I think you're right. What was the problem? Do you know, Miranda?
No, they had to switch to the owl. I guess the WebEx hookup to the laptop wasn't working, and we could hear them, but they couldn't hear us. And then they switched to the owl, but now we're back to not hearing them. So hopefully they're not continuing forward.
I probably are.
I know.
I'll text Billy.
I just sent them Billy and Macy a text.
Hey, Miranda, this is Andrew. I was only on the consent agenda, so I'm gonna sign off.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
I wish you luck. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Miranda, this is
Hi.
oh, yeah, I was just having a really, wait.
Oh, Claire,
Wanna
we're
try it
muted
this way.
again. What?
Well, I'm trying it through my
Oh.
phone. Does that work?
Yes, we can hear you, but
Yeah. Okay, I called
we're-
in
we're-
because I
we're
couldn't hear
having-
it through WebEx.
and they're in the room. I don't know if you heard any of this. They're having quite a bit of problems in the room, but I'm unfortunately not in the room with them to help.
No, I understand that. What I wanted to say is I was really having a hard time deciphering what they were saying when we could hear them.
Yeah.
It was very muffled. I don't know. It seems like other people weren't having that problem, so maybe it's my earbuds, but it was not very intelligible.
Yeah, I think all of us on the phone hear each other really well, much better than in the room.
But John, Tom, you cannot hear us.
It's really muffled. I think everyone's got to get closer to that owl.
We're too far away from this thing.
Right.
That makes
I think you just need to move your chairs next to the owl.
Why doesn't everybody?
Understood.
Why doesn't everybody just use their computer as if they were online?
When people speak.
They would have, you get a lot of
Yeah.
feedback, Tanya, if they're all side by side.
Yeah, the problem is,
Feedback.
Turn off your laptop,
all right, we're repositioning around the owl if you can hear us better when we're close.
Yes,
I
we
did
can.
hear you good, yeah.
that one big
Okay, well, we can't hear you again, just so y'all know.
Well, I sure hope that owl does a better job of scaring away woodpeckers than it does recording WebEx meetings.
You know, the owl actually works really well for the small scale meetings, like the ProSab Sab, but that's why I haven't hooked it up to date for a BOT meeting, because it's not the best for that setup. It's meant for, like, I think, more intimate meetings, personally.
We can hear a little bit of background, but no talking.
Yeah, for those of you online, I'm trying to work through this with Trustee Sterling right now.
Okay, gotcha.
So Miranda, can you hear us through the computer now?
That's pretty bad. We can hear you, but it's not good.
It's not good, it's not coming through clear.
No. Like you're in a bathtub, but it's workable.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Mayor Billy, we can hear you.
All right, I think this is the route we're gonna go. I'll let folks in the room know. Pretty much the trustees have moved to virtual.
So
Thank you
I would
all.
recommend the clerk mute. I can mute the clerk or the owl right now because we're getting a lot of feedback from that. If we're ready.
Okay, yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? If you're not getting a good signal, let's do that, and I'll just have to tell the almost 20 people in the room to log on else, different way.
Yeah, or you could always do public comment where they come in front of one of your computers to give the comment.
You know, that's a great idea. Let's do that instead.
Okay.
You can use the clerk computer.
Oh,
You can use that computer right there.
okay, cool. And they can use Macy's too. So maybe let's not mute her. Let's just kill the owl.
Well, she's not hooked. Are we talking about her personal laptop? She's not hooked up.
Just one second. Whose is that? Is that? Okay, yeah. Her personal computer is hooked up, actually.
Oh, where's the BOT computer?
She has that, but Nicole has. Hey, Macy. Wait, that's yours? Okay. Actually, the BOT one is the one that's hooked up. So we could have people in the room go in front of that laptop for comment.
Go in front of the BOT computer?
Yeah, that's the one that's connected. That's the one
Is that the one connected to the owl? Because it's not going to work if you try to do it that way.
Nikki, can we just turn off the owl? The owl's disconnected, so I don't know.
Well, I was going to just kick out this town clerk account, which will disconnect the whole BOT computer.
I don't know that you need to at this point, do you?
But you can't use it for public comment. So as long as you have another game plan.
Oh, we can't use the BOT one for.
Unless you're going
public
to unplug it from the owl.
The owl is unplugged and off.
So it's still showing up in two.
Well,
I'd
how does it
recommend-
sound? I don't really care what it looks like. Well, how's it sound?
It's muted right now, so someone will have to come off mute on that computer.
Oh, you mean the BOT computer is muted?
Correct.
Nikki, can you unmute that?
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, I wouldn't use that computer. I would just use one of your computers. That computer has so much feedback.
Okay.
I think we just get rid of this computer, kick it out of the meeting, and
Yeah.
people just speak in. If Macy wants to jump in off of her computer.
Okay. Nikki or Miranda, go ahead and disconnect that BOT computer.
Okay.
Can she turn it off?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to make an announcement to folks in the room here. So hey, folks in the room. So the actual two-way communication is only happening via the computers. So when you do public comment or presentations, we'll pick a computer. You're going to come to one of our computers and present and talk into that. And so all public comment will happen. You'll just have to come to one of our computers. Thank you. All right. So I don't. So I'm not sure exactly where you lost us, but I was talking about just recognizing it's a public comment on non-agenda items right now, and I was recognizing Shara's emailed public comment about the fact that, she feels that the STRs are all looked at the same and grouped the same, and that all the STR owners are being.
It's out yet.
Mhm.
How is everyone in the room going to hear what people are saying?
That's why we needed this computer right here.
She was, okay, I got it. Sorry, Miranda.
Yeah.
So the problem with turning that computer off is that now no one else in the room can hear. So if we can have that on for audio to come into the room for the public and mute it so that you won't get the feedback, will that work for you?
It should,
Can we do that?
maybe.
Do you need to turn that back on? It looks like it was.
But I don't know why it has to be that. I mean, can't anyone just hook the owl up? Like, Nicole, can you just hook the owl into your computer?
Miranda, that's an excellent point. Let me just plug the owl in.
Yeah, that's happening. Is it not? Thanks for bringing that up. I hadn't thought about that part of it.
Yeah. You mean to add? Yeah.
I do.
UFC.
Yeah.
It's not a nice. Two.
Come on, baby.
Jezzy. Let me tell you right now. I don't actually want. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or what the dress is on how the.
We're connected to the meeting over here.
People knew.
Hmm.
But Jenna wasn't leaving me up. But I'm basically just.
Because this is on. But it's the only way people in the room are going to be able to hear. Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me, Miranda?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear us well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and take a seat.
Someone's.
Well, are you gonna all just use the owl? Is that the intention? Because then Billy should mute. Because you're gonna get feedback off each other.
So Billy, and move. That'd be helpful. Whoever else wants to.
I mean, Jesse's got his own setup. I think it's fine. 5G. It's boiling your blood.
Got my own 5G.
Yeah, cancer race.
I'm read out the last couple actually.
Which computer will be the one?
The owls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, folks in the room, for presenters and folks doing public comment, when the time comes, you'll just come up and talk to the owl there. They won't stare at you, critique you.
It's going to be a very up close and intimate situation here. Okay. So.
All right, thanks, everyone. Patience. So again, we had the one comment that I appreciate on STRs and the fact that on all STRs are built the same. So are there any other public comments on non-agenda items?
Public comment here.
I didn't hear that public comment. Is it in the packet?
It's in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah, helpful packet on pages 34 and 35.
Although it can't see past computers.
All right. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items from folks in the room? Hearing none, seeing no one. Any public comments from folks online?
Project. It's over here. That's the mic.
I sound pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'm good. I got a loud voice. Any comments from folks online? Just raise your hand or at this point start talking. It's raised. Okay, seems there are no more public comments, so with that, we're gonna move on to our first of 3 action items. Commissioner Claire Levy is with us this evening, and Claire, correct me if it's Levy, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but I appreciate you being here, I appreciate your patience, and look forward to your presentation.
Muted.
Unmute.
Okay.
Commissioner Levy, you're gonna have to press *6 on your phone. We had to mute everybody.
That will be good
All
for
right,
everyone
can
else.
you hear me now? Can you hear me now through my phone?
We got you.
All
Thanks.
right, good. Yeah, I wasn't getting any audio through WebEx, so I dialed in. All right, well, thank you for making time for me tonight. And I'll just jump right into it and not take up too much of your time. I'm mostly here to answer questions. What I wanted to do was come before you and get support from the Nederland Board of Trustees for Boulder County's ballot issues 1A and 1B. And I did see in the packet that that you have prepared resolutions 45 and 46 to express the support of the Board of Trustees. I did include our resolutions that put both of these measures on the ballot. I think I didn't see the open space measure materials that I sent, but just very, very briefly about both of them. They're both extensions of existing sales taxes. So the total sales tax rate for Boulder County would not go up as a result of either of these. The open space tax, which is county issue 1.
I can hear him.
Mhm.
You can hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, somebody just was talking in the background.
Probably going to be a lot of background.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I'll just keep going. 1A is the extension of an existing 0.05% sales tax for maintenance and acquisition of open space. And that's an extension of an existing tax, and it would allow us to continue to acquire open space as the opportunity arises and use those funds for maintenance. We're hearing from the public a lot of interest in increased trailhead amenities, improvements to our trails and signage. And so this continues to give us flexibility to do both of those. The one that may need more explanation is rededicating an existing 0.185% sales tax to affordable and attainable housing throughout Boulder County, along with related support services for people who need that assistance in order to remain housed or for rental assistance, things like that. And that is coming from a tax that will expire at the end of 2024 that's currently funding construction of the alternative sentencing facility. I did include some materials in the packet that describe a little bit more about the need for funding for affordable housing in Boulder County. It doesn't really require a lot of explanation. Housing consistently comes up as the most unaffordable problem in Boulder County. The high cost of housing is causing people to leave the county if they're low or moderate income, increased commute times, increased financial burden for those who are struggling to pay rent and afford their transportation needs. And so we're hoping that these funds will address that. Excuse me, will be distributing them to municipalities in Boulder County, to the 3 housing authorities that exist in Boulder County, as well as to nonprofit service providers. And that's just a very quick summary of the 2 ballot measures. I really wanted to be here to answer questions if you have them.
One question, Commissioner Levy, how is this polling across the county so far? You probably talked to other bodies like ours.
Yeah, and so we're not doing any formal polling. That's expensive, although the polling that we did, just general public opinion polling, as I said earlier, the cost of housing ranks very, very high. But no, we have no opposition to it. We've made presentations in City of Boulder, I think Lafayette, Louisville, will be in Erie in 2 weeks, Superior next week, but indications are that we'll get consistent support across the county. And we have no formal opposition.
Great.
You may have seen the Daily Camera editorial from last Sunday. We were very happy to see that very strong support from the editorial page of the Daily Camera.
Thanks, Commissioner. I did have a question. I mean, I'm in support of both of these initiatives, but I wonder how they work together if they work together in any way. Does the open space, reduce developable land and then increase housing prices, which then leads to us needing to levy taxes to ensure that we have more affordable housing? Like, do these things have a relationship in some way?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say no, actually, because the open space that Boulder County tends to pursue is in unincorporated Boulder County, and that's not an area in which that we feel is appropriate for housing. We did the Tungsten Village in the town of Nederland. We're doing Willoughby Corner in the town of Lafayette. That's where, just for our comprehensive plan and good land use planning in general, we feel that housing ought to be within incorporated municipalities. So I don't think that the open space acquisitions actually do create a need for more housing or drive up the cost of housing, I guess is what I should say. But thanks for the question. It's a really good question.
No, that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Levy, when it talks about mobile home park investments, does that mean actual capital funds to build out mobile homes, or is that meaning something else?
It is, no, thanks for that question as well. It's to help if a mobile home park wants to become a resident-owned community, it might be some grant funds to help them achieve that status. We've seen some mobile home parks that have significant infrastructure needs for safe drinking water and wastewater disposal, and so it would help with that. Generally, it's going to be local match money to pull in state grants, though, but it would not be to create or create new mobile home communities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more clarifying questions from the trustees?
I'm clear.
Okay, with that, we'd like to open this up for public comment. We'll go in the room first. If you have any public comments on the BOT endorsing a couple of these ballot initiatives from that the county is going to put on November's ballot, come on up. If you do have a public comment, just come on up. That seat here at the other side of the table. Let us know what you're thinking. If not, we'll go online. If any folks online have a public comment on this item, time you might have to it's *6 because everyone was muted earlier when we were having our technical difficulties. I see Teresa Robertson. You might go *6. Maybe trying to talk. Can't hear you.
Teresa's muted.
Teresa, I think you're still muted. You can try *6.
I'm not entirely sure she meant to comment. I think she just came off of mute and it was just that.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thanks, Miranda.
If you have a comment on this, and you get it while we're still talking about it, I'll give you time to talk. But seeing no other comments online, I'd like to bring it back to the board for discussion and motion.
I have a question for Claire. How much money annually has this generated for the county, more or less?
Are you referring to the affordable and attainable housing?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Well,
the affordable housing.
Yeah, that currently we're taking in around 16 million a year. And just to be clear, right now that money is funding construction of all our alternative sentencing facility, and then if the voters approve this measure, starting on January 1st of 2025, we'll be collecting the funds for affordable and attainable housing. So it'll be, we're seeing about a 1 to 3% annual increase in sales tax revenue. So in the neighborhood of $16-17 million a year.
How much did the Nederland project cost? Do you remember?
Pardon, which one?
The Nederland project, the Boulder Housing Association.
Townsend Village specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the total cost of that. That project was completed before my time as a county commissioner. Just to that question, though, these funds would not be, we would use them to leverage other funds, so they would not finance all the cost of a housing development. That would be
how does a community access the funds? Like, where does the money go?
Well, at the town of Nederland, we're going to offer some housing programs itself. That would be distributed to the town. If it's or Boulder County Housing Authority, if there were another project that the town wanted to do within the town of Nederland and you wanted to partner with our housing authority, then the housing authority would access the funds. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to distribute the money, but what we're thinking about right now is that using the regional affordable housing partnership, which all the municipalities in Boulder County have joined, that group would make or contribute to the funding decision. So it would not be the exclusive province of Boulder County to decide how to distribute the funds. We would want to get input from municipalities and nonprofit housing providers and the housing authorities.
Okay, I'm just curious, just because that's a lot of money, and hopefully it'll be pretty transparent as to how to access it, etc. It'll be on the a website or something, like how.
I imagine website, but I think, we would have a group that would make those decisions. It would not be just made, the decisions wouldn't be made unilaterally by Boulder County.
But isn't it
And
Boulder
that's real-
County isn't it a Boulder County program?
We will collect, we're imposing and collecting the sales tax, but we would distribute it because it would come in through the county. But I thought your question was going at how would we decide who is going to receive those funds and for
Yeah,
what
I
purpose?
imagine that money stays in Boulder County, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, I'm a little confused, but I guess we'll find out and be able to talk about it later if it passes.
Yeah, it'll stay in Boulder County, Boulder County Housing Authority, Boulder Housing Partners, Longmont Housing Authority, and all of the municipalities in Boulder County would be able to request funds. And, with the decisions that will have to be made is how much would be used for housing itself, how much would be used for services. We want to be able to address transitional housing and permanent supportive housing. And affordable home ownership programs so as far as how we would allocate it among all of those uses, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty quickly it becomes not enough money. But
yeah.
Once you mention all the other, Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, okay.
So
Yeah, and I'm
I
happy
move
to
to
continue
approve.
answering questions.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-45, providing a position of support for Boulder County ballot issue 1A, open space sale and use tax extension.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or anything? Trustees? Okay. Macy, when you're ready.
All right. Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thank you.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-46, providing a position of support for Boulder County ballot issue 1B, affordable housing sales and use tax.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and second.
Okay. Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Mahol.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to our second.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner Levy. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for coming and waiting for us.
Yes, your patience is valued.
Action item 5.2, a couple applicants for our ProSab alternate appointment. So, Miranda, would you?
Yep.
would you say?
So before you is the appointment for ProSab. So ProSab had just kind of to take you back, ProSab had a resignation of Jason Swan, who was a regular board member. And at the time, Casey Canelo was an alternate. And the Board of Trustees recently approved Casey to move into the regular board member's position, which left the alternate now open. We posted it as we normally do, and we received 2 applications. I'm not sure if Kate and Zoe are in the room with you, but they've both been invited to share why they're interested in joining ProSab. They did meet with ProSab. Kate met with ProSab. Zoe wasn't available back in their meeting last month, and ProSab unanimously recommended that Kate be appointed for the position. But ultimately, this is a Board of Trustees decision. So the question before you is, between Zoe and Kate, who would you want to appoint to the ProSab alternate seat with a term ending June 1st, 2026?
My first question is, are Kate or Zoe here?
Yeah, they're both here.
Go myself.
Zoe, okay, my wife Zoe's, I go to Zoe. So, okay.
So, I think it'd be good for each of you to speak to us. So,
They want.
if you like.
Yeah, if you like. And you have to sit right here in this chair, really close to us. So. Sure,
So you can go.
you're closest.
Everyone. I feel so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You could sit it to the side if you wanted to, just so you.
Awesome. Yeah, my name's Zoe. I've been a homeowner here for about 3 years now. I'm born and raised in Colorado. I applied for the position because I'm very passionate about the space. My background is in environmental engineering. I started a company in the regenerative agriculture space, really focused on land management and how human beings and animals interact with land and what we need to do to protect it. And I felt like this was a great way to kind of step back from thinking more from the global perspective, but from the local perspective, and what can I do to support our open space and mountain parks and make them more protected, but also accessible by all. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to meet with ProSab. My work sent me to New York that week, so I was out of town during the meeting. But yeah, I would love to answer any questions on why I'm interested or why it'd be a good fit.
I've got one for you. You were thinking about how it applies to us. What did you come up with?
How it applies to
Netherlands.
Netherlands.
You're thinking about going from the general to the specific.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is making our land more accessible by, I think, all communities, right? So an example of that is how do we leverage bringing more languages? And I know this is something that the city of Boulder has thought about a lot too with our Hispanic community, but incorporating new languages.
Hold on. Sorry. Miranda.
Continue.
Okay, got it. Hey, can everyone hear in the back, by the way?
We've got an echo.
Not
Somebody's got an
really.
echo.
Kristen.
Yeah, oh, that's me. All right, I gotta just go. I just have to leave me. Everything's muted. I don't really know what's going on.
There she goes.
Thank you, Kristen.
She did.
Oh, you're here in the room? Oh,
Ay, ay, ay.
well, you didn't have to expose yourself. You could have just gone under, but no, that's great. All right.
So you're actually blocking her vision
Oh.
with your computer. Yeah, yeah. If you're on that side, there
Better.
we go.
And then-
Much better.
And then project out to the rest of the group.
Just holler at us so it
Yeah.
bounces back.
We're okay. You can yell at us as long as you want, or as
We're used to it.
Okay, so my first response was on accessibility and information on our parks to all. The second part is really like, how can we leverage forest conservation for,
Gotta be real close to it.
okay. Something I do, in my day job, I'm a climate tech investor, so I invest in startups that are building technologies in this space. A lot of carbon sequestration startups are starting to emerge. There's plenty of ways for towns and cities to get paid for proper conservation. So I think that would be a unique angle. I don't know if that's something that we've thought about before, but those are kind of the top two ideas that I have.
I like those ideas. Any other questions for Zoe?
Just want to say thank you for stepping up, Zoe.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Your application is amazing. You're obviously extremely well qualified. We also have a sustainability advisory board that I think that you would be great on once there's an opening there, which there are openings all the time on all of these boards. So even if you don't make it onto ProSab, I think having you as part of government would be really excellent.
Thank you all so much for
And
having
we
me.
actually just had a readout on our carbon emissions, and how it's going in Boulder County. It's going great. So,
No.
yeah. But yeah, I would echo what, Trustee Coombs-Snell says.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe. Kate?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate.
Okay.
Okay,
Hi. So, intro. I'm Kate. I've lived here in Nederland for 7 years. Had kind of a shift in my life recently. I quit my job in software. My background's in molecular biology, and I have an MBA. And was in software startups for a long time in fitness, and have 2 children, raised my children here, and quit in January to just kind of realign my goals and just get my values in alignment with what I was spending my time on. And my friend Kip, who manages the farmers market, texted me and said, "Hey, we need someone to manage the farmers market." And I said, "I'd actually love to do that." So after being in Ned for 6 years, started at the farmers market. And that's really when my love for Nederland and this community was really catalyzed. Getting to be a part of this community and meeting community members every other week and serving this community is really what's kind of exploding my heart and rooting us even further in Ned. So that's really why, my main reason why I applied. Just kind of seeing just the beauty and the passion and the love that I have for that community, and how else can I apply myself in other ways to Nederland. So of course that also intersects with my love of our land. So we moved here primarily for the outdoor spaces. We're at Chipeta twice a week, if not more. We're riding bikes in West Mag, East Dot, Caribou. I feel like since moving up here and having access to these trails and having access to what we do, we're so fortunate. And one of the big lacks that we have in this community is communicating and proselytizing and supporting access to these beautiful lands that we have. I feel like it's kind of a privilege to have access and not a lot of people know about it. So there's strategy around communicating those things more broadly so that we're being resourceful, mindful of the land that we have, but also letting people have access to these things that we do. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
thanks, Kate. Any questions for Kate from the trustees?
It's actually a question for either one of you.
Yeah.
There's one goal that ProSab put on our strategic goals this year. Do you, any
Yeah,
take a
the
gander?
first, oh, do you, go ahead.
Take a gander what it is?
Do you want one of the strategic? There's like 16. You want one of them?
There was one specifically that ProSab threw on our strategic goals. It's okay if you don't know it. We don't expect, well, it would be great if people read it, but you know.
So
I'll give it to you.
I know
Update the PROST. And then with
Yes.
that updating of the PROST is to create a trails connectivity plan.
Yep.
Which, what's a PROST?
I'm really competing for this. I'm like, me. You should get up here. I'm eager.
What is the PROST? That's a great question, Trustee Severs. Do you want to elucidate us?
Parks, recreation, open space.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the one strategic goal that's on our master strategic goals for the BOT that we're looking for ProSub to deliver this year. And
Yeah.
so-
Question about that, because I saw that.
Come closer here. Like, yeah, let's all just get in right
Bring
here.
another chair.
All right, just come on in. Yeah, what's your question about it?
I saw that that was in coordination with the Forestry Service. Is that correct? In collaboration with the Forestry Service?
There may be
I
a
wanted to
degree of
understand.
partnerships or conversations that they have. Yeah, but yeah, it's so we have all these disparate trails. And as you've always said, you just want a trail from your house down into downtown now, right?
Build me that.
Yeah,
It's
we live up in Big Springs, right? And you know, the cars go fast. It's like, hello, speed limit is 15 miles per hour. He's got a baby. He wants the safety of a trail going all the way down into the middle of Nederland. And so that's what we're talking about with our connectivity trails.
Yeah.
So
I can resonate. I'm a marathon runner, and so I have to like go do a bunch of laps, drive up the mountain, do some laps to get, it'd be great.
yeah,
It's
it'd be
connected.
great if it was all.
I'm sure you resonate. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks. Any other comments from the trustees? We're gonna have public comment here in a second. Any other comments from the trustees or questions for Zoe or Kate?
I'd say we win with either one of you.
Completely agree.
Okay, and
Mhm.
also I will also say, elections are coming up for the BOT come April. So like for these positions, Eric is at the end of his term. He won't be running, but there will be a couple of open positions. And so if you're not maybe thinking about process, or there are options. And so please keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Just in case public have questions, you might as well.
Yeah,
stay.
yeah, actually, well, I'll call for public comment with folks in the room. Any comments on these two excellent applicants for this alternate position with the PROSEP? All right, any comments online? Or folks online? Everyone's speechless. All right, hearing no comments, we'll bring it back to the board for
Thank you, guys.
discussion and a motion. Thank you both.
Oh, I know. Good stuff. We have both.
Tom and John, any other comments or things you are thinking?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I always like to see good candidates come forward, and sometimes I think we are blessed beyond what we should expect. This is great.
This is not working.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Just so you know, we can't hear Jesse whenever he speaks.
Yeah, that's true.
I was wondering if you could hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
John, what would Jesse say if we could hear him?
If Jesse, what would Jesse say? If Jesse were here, he might mention that he's done a tremendous amount of research, researching trails with specific use cases to economic impact. And I wonder if the candidates have any thoughts.
John.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You can? Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if the candidates have any thoughts on the economic impact potentially of interconnected trails.
Do you mind coming and answering John's
Come back.
question? That's a good one.
I feel very passionately about this.
I can see why you guys would want to spend time outdoors with all this technology friction.
Yeah, so who asked this question?
This is Trustee Mountain.
Trustee John Mountain. This is Kate talking right now, John.
Hi, Trustee Mountain. Yeah, so I'm an avid mountain biker, and we moved here for the mountain biking. And one of the things that just kills me about Nederland, and I spoke to it briefly, but there's so much potential up here for that accessibility to trails, and that the disparate nature of them, how they are so disconnected. But my husband, I sent him on his 40th birthday to Bentonville, all the way out there. And it's this mecca for mountain biking. And it doesn't take much more than capital resources, of course, but passionate people that have a vision, that have an idea, that have the support to go do it. And I feel like that's one thing I'm really passionate about. I will say too, that to me, I'm not here to push an agenda either. Although I am into the mountain biking and want to do this sort of collaborative networking, I'm here for the community first and foremost. So really what's going to support the community. But yeah, it kills me that we could be capitalizing on so much more with our trail systems that we're currently not. And I don't think it takes that much to do so. So.
Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. And this is Zoe talking now.
I agree with Kate, but I think I would take a more conservative approach just because I feel like we all know what it's like to go to West Bank on a Saturday and how frustrating that can be for some of our community members. So yes, I think the connectivity problem would solve some of that density influx in one zone, but would take a really careful approach in how we think about building it out so that it stays for our local community first.
Oof.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
You guys.
I know.
Yeah, this is for an alternate.
I know.
Like, get out of here so we can appoint somebody.
Trustees, any other questions or comments?
End the questions now. Yeah.
This is Tanya. I think both of these women seem amazing, and I actually agree with both those responses because too much of a popularity thing is not really what I want, but I just want it for myself. I just want to say I know Kate pretty well as the manager of our market, and she's been amazing. super organized and really easy to work with, and great communicator and super capable beyond the job. So I'm a little bit biased on that level because I know her personally, and I know her as not necessarily personally, but professionally, I guess I would say. So that's all I'm gonna say. But I think both people are great. So thank you guys both for being here.
If I could, given really the ProSab's recommendation, I'd like to just go ahead and make a motion to appoint Kate Izquierdo to our alternate for ProSab.
A second.
All right, ready?
Yeah, any discussion? Yes. Go,
Okay.
Lisa.
Trustee Kuzma,
Yes, come back. So please come back.
Please.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Billy.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you both. Appreciate you both being here. I hope so you can join us soon.
Yes.
And then we'll-
We'll keep it.
Now you're real easier if you need any farmer's market. Huh?
Girl. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
We mean it, Zoe. Come back, okay? And you guys can leave if you don't want to hang around. Okay. Excellent. We don't want you to feel obligated if you didn't. All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So our next action item is a short-term rental application moratorium. And again, I want to remind the trustees that this aim is about really one thing, whether or not we are going to implement a moratorium. So we have all these details about STRs that are listed in the aim. But for sake of just focus, what we're talking about tonight is a moratorium, and whether or not we put a moratorium on STRs for 6 months for all new STR license applications. Now, last time we talked about this, I went around the room and asked each trustee to talk about whether they owned a STR in the town of Nederland, whether they felt like they had a conflict of interest, and whether or not they would recuse themselves. I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to address real quickly conflict of interest. So this is something that's a big topic, and I think I myself find myself questioning things about folks, and then we get comments about it. There was an article in the paper, and I think it's important. We did a training, Tom and I, for sake of the BOT and all the other chairs and vice chairs from the different boards of town. We did a really good training on conflict of interest, and we learned a lot about the fact that how it works with Colorado state laws. It's really on each of us to decide whether or not we have a conflict of interest and whether or not we can vote fairly on an item. And that is an important thing for all of us to realize. I can say that it seems like the conflict of interest has been weaponized at times in town, around town, online, in these meetings. And that is something that we all just have to take a look at. The reality is some of us, 5 of us were elected to office and 2 folks were appointed, which means they were elected by us trustees. And people came to the table with what they, some folks are business owners in town. They were elected, got a lot of votes as business owners in town. People knew that. It's not like it was a secret. And so I think it's important that we are fair. And if someone gets on these boards or on the board of trustees, it's kind of unreasonable to expect them to recuse themselves from every decision because they were voted to be part of this board and make decisions. And specifically, if it's representative government on STRs, it kind of makes sense that someone in the board of trustees might own an STR. Does that mean they can't make any votes on an STR? Not necessarily, or yes. I mean, they are free to decide whether they can or not, is what I'm trying to say. This is not just because you have something in common with someone we're voting on, doesn't necessarily mean you have to X yourself out of every decision. It would make some people on this board unable to vote on much of anything, and that would be unfair. I mean, frankly, most all of us have kids, and so we wouldn't be able to do much about this whole Teen Zing thing if we were gonna look at it that way, so we'd all have to recuse ourselves, many of us at least. So I just want to do that as my buffer. I'm not asking these questions of the board to put anyone on the spot or to point it out like, aha, this person's got the conflict. I'm doing this quite honestly for the opposite reason of being more transparent as a board, letting people know what's up with each of us, and then letting folks know where we stand personally with what we think we can do. If any of us feel like we have a conflict of interest, it is our duty to proclaim that, and in some cases recuse ourselves. And this one board, the Board of Trustees in our bylaws, we actually have the ability to decide to recuse someone. And I don't feel like that's the case in this instance, but I'm letting you know that there is a check and a balance here for this board. But the reason I'm doing this more specifically is to increase the transparency of our board and let folks know that we don't have as much to hide as people often think we do. So, with that said, I'm going to ask each and every one of the board members whether or not you own an STR in the town of Nederland, whether you feel like you have a conflict of interest with this issue, and whether or not you feel like you need to recuse yourself, specifically from the vote for an STR moratorium. I'll go first. I do not own any STRs in the town of Nederland or anywhere. I do not have a conflict of interest. I don't feel the need to recuse myself.
I also, Trustee Sterling, do not have any STRs. I do not have a conflict of interest, and I do not need to recuse myself.
Mr. Trustee Coombs Ismail, I don't own an STR. I don't have a conflict of interest, and I do not feel I need to recuse myself.
This is Trustee Mountain. I do not own an STR anywhere. I did own an STR in the town of Nederland. And I want to say thank you, Mayor Billy, for speaking out in the way that you did, because this is volunteer time. It's very valuable time that we spend on this. And me owning an STR, even if I currently did, would not necessarily morally make me feel obligated to recuse myself. I would almost feel morally obligated to be the opposite, because I have experience and I feel that's valuable to offer to the decision making of this board. So I'm just one member of the community. I have nothing to gain necessarily from my decision making. I have a lot to offer the town, and I'm happy to do so at my own expense and free time.
Thanks. And then I guess, did you answer those second two questions? Or maybe you did. I apologize.
I do not own an STR anywhere, and I do not recuse myself.
Okay, that's right. You did answer. I'm sorry. Okay. Other trustees?
I own 2 long-term rentals. I don't feel philosophically opposed to STRs. I just am too lazy to put that much work into it. And I don't feel conflicted, so I don't recuse myself.
Thanks, Tom.
This is Trustee Severs. I do have an STR. It's really my wife's STR. I could take it or leave it. It's a very small portion of our income, and I do not feel I have a conflict of interest, and I do not intend to recuse myself.
Thanks, Jesse. Tanya?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I don't have an STR. I don't have a conflict of interest. I could see myself in the future having one at my home that I lived in for 30 plus years, 30 years, but I don't have one now.
Okay. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, everyone, for answering those questions for the public here. That being said, we will go ahead and move into the aim for this action item. Ms. Macy?
Yeah. All right. So thank you, Mayor Billy, for reviewing all that for us. I think it's super helpful. So to jump into it, on August 30th, the Planning Commission met and developed a subcommittee to work on amendments for the short-term rental code. While Chair Williams and Commissioner Herring work on these amendments, town staff has recommended implementing a 6-month moratorium on all new short-term rental licenses. This will prevent the increase in number of licenses while the Planning Committee and Board of Trustees evaluate whether to implement changes such as a cap or licensing requirements. At the meeting on September 27th, the Planning Commission voted in favor of recommending to the board that the town staff implement a 6-month moratorium on all new short-term rental license applications. The purpose of this agenda item is to discuss a moratorium of acceptance and processing of new short-term rental licenses for a period of 6 months until March 6, 2024. It allows for town to maintain the status quo on short-term rental licenses. The moratorium will not affect the status of any existing licenses. Town staff has seen an increased interest in inquiries related to short-term rentals. If the Board of Trustees adopts an amended short-term rental licensing program prior to March 6, 2024, the moratorium on new short-term rental licenses can be lifted earlier. The ordinance is drafted to take effect immediately upon adoption by the board. In other situations, ordinances take effect 30 days after publication. It is typical that moratoriums, if approved, are adopted to take effect immediately. This immediate effective date serves the purpose of maintaining the status quo. It should be noted that this type of ordinance requires approval by 6 out of 7 of the members of the Board of Trustees. And then just a reminder that the focus tonight is whether or not to implement the moratorium, and that is all that is before you. So I'll take it back to Mayor Billy.
Okay, are there any clarifying questions?
Yes. I sat in that planning commission discussion. What was the final vote? I opted to shorten the 6 months. I think it's superficial just to say that a vote went down, but what's the background?
I can answer that. It's Miranda. So it wasn't actually a vote, it was a discussion item, if I recall, to move it forward to the Board of Trustees.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't a further discussion about it, what the timeline was, but Mayor Pro Tem Bohold, you do bring up a great point that there is a possibility of adjusting that timeline. Oh, I'm sorry, it was an action item. Britt, I know Britt's on. Britt, do you recall the exact vote breakdown?
It was just to move forward. The subcommittee said they would try to hurry, but there was no commitment to a timeline.
But did anyone vote no? Everyone voted yes, correct?
No, I think I voted.
The only person who voted no was one of the commissioners did not vote at all. And then Temmie voted no because he wanted there to be an exclusion for primary host living in the home.
Yes, and he also objected to the 6 months. I clarified that with him immediately after, and then later make sure he still felt that way. So there was some, I think we're glossing over a lot of there was some pushback in that meeting. I wouldn't call it unanimous by any means. Before
Tom.
Two of the things.
I don't have a vote there, so I couldn't vote against it.
So two of the things that you heard that weren't unanimous by any means were the 6 months, that some folks thought it should be less. And then Temmie specifically said that folks who live in the home really shouldn't, that there wouldn't be a moratorium for that class of STR. Is that what you're saying? Or is that what he said?
And point two, that just coming up with 6 months, it seemed kind of arbitrary that people come up with 6 months when they don't. Basically, if it's 3 months, we do our homework 3 months faster. My objection, and he concurred, is that we're sometimes very sloppy with moratoriums. We throw it out there and we don't spend the time thinking about it. We just spend the time depriving people of their rights, their property rights.
Can I ask, is there already a subcommittee for this on the Planning Commission?
There is.
The only thing one question I have for Britt, I guess, is how many subcommittees do they presently have on how many things? Because I know that's a time thing. Like
We
have a few
have,
things going on.
let's see, I believe an animal subcommittee, a parking subcommittee, the STR subcommittee. Miranda, am I missing any?
Housing, but housing is pretty much done.
Subcommittee.
Housing is done though. They have one more meeting, right, Britt, and then they'll be done.
Correct. Yep, we have one more meeting this Thursday, and then the housing subcommittee will be done.
And then like parking regs too, right?
Right, there's
Or-
currently 4 subcommittees, but one's about to fall off, and then generally different members on each subcommittee.
So it doesn't seem like too much of an ask to shorten it.
Did they articulate how much time would have to go into? I mean, because a lot of that homework has already been done by town staff based off that last STR meeting that we had. So what was the justification for asking for 6 months? I'm just wanting to make sure there's nothing we're missing here.
I think that the sentiment was that it would lead to not feeling rushed. Want to be really mindful that you add in a tight timeline, and again, these are volunteers who are supporting, and so just making sure that they're not feeling like they have to make quick decisions. They have the ability to further research things before an ordinance is officially drafted. Now, I also believe, and Macy and Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, that if a different moratorium length was assigned, that we would of course meet those parameters, but just never want to feel rushed when making decisions, to Mayor Potem Mahold's point, that are going to impact property owners.
I would agree with that. It was also mentioned by Chair Williams that he would appreciate the 6 months so that he does have time to focus on this as a subcommittee.
Yeah, and although they said we would try to push till, to get it done before the end of the year, Commissioner Herring has a pretty hectic work schedule. And again, what Macy said for Chair Williams, and just keeping in mind that the holiday is coming as well. So that can come into play, although we're going to try to move faster on it. I think that's kind of the reasoning for that 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months from today is January 3rd. So you basically kill a month in there. So it's really 2 months. But so animals is about to fall off, animals ordinance subcommittee. So we still have a parking subcommittee, an STR subcommittee, and housing was the third?
Housing's about to come off as well.
Yeah, that's, I mean, to play.
I
hear
would
you.
just ask, what information do we have yet to gather? I think staff work has been largely done. We're making it sound like people are going to have to spend all this time pondering something that's already been researched. So I don't know where the big time requirement is coming from, because I think it's largely known. And as a property owner, I'm very sensitive to the rights of property owners too. I think we're very cavalier sometimes in depriving them of their property rights. And 6 months was, to me, very arbitrary. So if somebody has a legitimate need for 6 months, I'd love to hear about it, but I'm not convinced. I didn't have a vote on that committee, or I would have voted no.
Would you think 4 months is better, Tom?
Yeah, I could live with that.
I mean, the only reason I think of the 6 months is because of the holidays are within this period coming up. And
Tony,
then people
if they spend time, yeah, but if they spend time thinking about it, that's one thing. I just don't know that. I think if I've got 6 months to think about something, I'll start thinking at month 5.
I don't disagree with you. I was thinking the same thing, that 6 months was too long.
Mm-hmm.
I also think I agree with the person who said that the person renting a room within their house should be exempt from this moratorium as well. But that's another part conversation.
Would that be?
Or is it? I mean, that could, we are free, I believe, to, I mean, this is kind of consistent with our earlier comment about the fact that as different STRs are.
And just to be super clear, we're talking about the primary residence host present license.
Correct. Correct. Like
do
someone
have a-
renting a room.
Are we on clarifying questions here? Or?
Yes. Any more
I've got one.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. Just a real quick clarifying question. The one thing that I'd be curious to know is, Macy, you might have data on this, but has there been a huge influx of applicants who seem suspect, i.e., corporate entities which look to be the type who would want to buy up big swaths of property in a certain area. Is there a direct concern that triggered this with regard to how the applicants appear with this large influx?
So I have seen an influx since the moratorium has been discussed. There were 4 applicants that came in yesterday, and 2 of them spent 4 hours in town hall with me. So I spent the majority of my day on short-term rental applications to get them in before the moratorium this evening. Those license applications told me that they are not interested in actually using their licenses. They just wanted to get their license before the moratorium was implemented.
Are they folks who live in their homes or?
Yeah, what type of licenses are
They have applied for primary residence licenses.
primary residence host present?
They're different. Some of them are host present, some of them are host not present.
And perhaps I can just jump in, it's Miranda. You know, I think one of the things we noted though is that primary license, host present or host not present, the stipulations of proving primary license is relatively easy. So it has caused question, right? You just have to change over your ID, your voter registration, or your motor vehicle, or some tax documents. So to answer your question, Trustee Mountain, do we have concerns? Yes, we absolutely have concerns that we have people claiming a primary resident host not present license who got the documentation required per the ordinance, but yes, it's questionable whether they live there. However, the ordinance doesn't provide that ability on our end to truly start to question that further. It really comes down to do you have the documents or do you not? And if you have them, you get the license. And so recognizing that more and more people are going to come forward, maybe while the requirements are the way they are, and that this moratorium gives us the space to tighten that stuff up versus letting more and more people come through under the current regulations. And now you went from 70 some odd short-term rentals to 100 by the time you want to put in your different restrictions. So that moratorium helps us create the guidelines without seeing a huge explosion in the number of short-term rentals.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
I can also clarify that there has been a lot presented in terms of regulations and what should be updated. And when we first met as a subcommittee, we've only met one time and we met for 1 hour and we only covered one of those recommendations and we only scratched the surface on it. So on each of these, there's a lot to dig into. There's a lot to research from other municipalities. There's a lot for individually for each of us to take on and do homework and then bring back to the subcommittee. So I think the timeline is very reasonable.
And perhaps I can add to kind of address maybe that concern of you have 6 months, but you started month 5 is, as to Macy's point, the subcommittee already met and they're set to meet next week. I mean, they're not wasting the time already made available to them. You know, they're not going to start it. They're going to keep going. But yes, time is needed to work through everything that's outlined that Macy's already done research on. But to Macy's point, that's just data. That was just data sets to tell you how other municipalities handle this. It doesn't mean that what's occurring in Telluride can be applied to Nederland. There's a lot of work that has to be done to assess, is that realistic and is it feasible for our community?
Yeah, I talked with their town manager and some on their council about how they came to that decision. But yeah, I just want to be cognizant of if 6 months is the number, that we're spending 6 months doing research and we're not just kicking it down the road just to deal with it later. That it's thoughtful and we're deliberate and we need the time.
What I would add too is you have 2 dedicated staff members to this. I support Britt and Macy all along the way, so whatever they might need, plus 2 planning commissioners. So you have a team of 5 working on this. And I think to Macy's point in her aim, if it's done before the 6 months, we won't dilly-dally. When we're ready to bring you an ordinance for voting, that's what will happen. But rather than coming to you in, say, 3 months saying we need an extension, I think the ask is a bit of faith that if you give town staff in the subcommittee 6 months, we're going to do everything in our power and do our due diligence to try to bring it to you in a shorter time frame.
I trust you and your team. So I'll yield.
The only other comment I'll make is it seems likely there will be another subcommittee or two forming in the PC over the next 3 months too.
I'm on two, so I'm not gonna go for a third.
There might be a fourth.
Miranda, could I just ask what your reaction is to the idea that we might exclude primary residence host present from the moratorium?
Yeah, I'd love to give that to Macy. I don't have concerns, and my gut is going to say that Macy probably doesn't either. But Macy, I'd love to know your thoughts.
Well, I don't initially, but I would love to ask Jennifer Madsen about her concerns if she has any.
The only concern that I would have is that specific direction wasn't given to the Planning Commission as to draft a new ordinance that says XYZ. What the direction was is to form a subcommittee to consider short-term rental regulations and to present to us a new ordinance that addresses some of the issues that we've discussed. So you've left it open-ended for the subcommittee to come back to you with a recommended ordinance that they think fits what addresses the issues in the community. It's possible that they may do something that changes that particular type of license. So I would recommend to leave it open-ended, the moratorium, so it does apply to that license. So there isn't any applications that are accepted for the 6-month period of time.
Open-ended.
Meaning don't carve out the primary resident host present. Because you don't know exactly what they're gonna do.
Trustee Coombs, Ismail, maybe can I change I said I had no concerns, but then I started thinking more and more about Macy and Macy's time. Here would be my concern is someone then just tries to flip their license from a primary resident host not present to a host present. And now Macy's spending half her day monitoring those listings to make sure that it's a room being rented and not a whole home rental. The amount of work that would go onto Macy, that's probably a full-time job in and of itself. It's already, short-term rentals already take up probably 50% of her time, and that would just add in more. So I do agree with Attorney Madsen. People look for loopholes, and no comment on that, on why someone chooses to do that, but people look for loopholes, and that will be one that people would go after, I do believe.
Go ahead, Jesse.
People online hear me when I'm talking to this microphone?
Not really, Jesse.
Jesse, Bidwell?
I didn't hear Jesse at all.
I didn't either. Sorry, Jesse.
Okay, well, you can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
I took it off mute. I'd just like it if we could read the room and try to bump this to the end of the meeting and dive into the Teens Inc. topic right now and just shuffle our agenda around a little bit and these moms can go home.
Yeah.
And all of our concerned citizens.
Sounds good. Do we need to do?
We need to take public comment on this.
Yeah.
Well, if we can just time out on this and circle back to it, I'll see what's.
I see what you're saying.
Well, then someone else is just gonna have to wait if they wanted to comment on this. Someone's waiting on it.
It's either one or two people on this topic or 50 people.
I think what we're gonna do now is move to public comment and see.
There might not be
what happens, and then go from there.
And then we can.
Because our final discussion, I agree. So thanks, Jesse. I want to move to public comment on STR moratorium. As we've been discussing it with folks in the room first. Any public comments, any comments you have, step right up to our table and we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Not really here for this topic, but I'll comment on it since I do own an STR in the town limits. So I do own an STR in the town limits, a whole home. It's not a primary residence. It's in the industrial zone. But I do support this moratorium. I personally have, my license and this would not affect me. However, I do understand the circumstances surrounding the topic, and I want to be part of the solution in the conversation. So if it allows the town, the BOT, to have the time to do their research, look into the concerns that they have concerning the fire pit bans and whole cap on the numbers of them, I support that as an STR owner. So.
Thanks. Can you identify yourself and your relationship?
Yes, sorry,
For folks that aren't here.
my name is Travis Brock, and I own property on 75 Wolftown Court.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate your perspective. Any other comments from folks in the room? If not, we'll go online. If any folks online have any public comments on the STR moratorium discussion. Hearing none, we're at a place where we could.
I'm gonna make a
I'm gonna
motion.
make,
No, go.
oh,
No, just I'm gonna say two things, 6 votes out of 7.
yes.
Yeah.
And I am gonna point, and just so I seemed a little like probably vague, I said there is likely to be a PUD, it's been announced when is likely to come in front of us, a significant downtown PUD over the next few months. The planning commission is gonna be seeing that, and then within the next 3 months, that is definitely gonna be a big thing that's going on their plate shortly
Absolutely.
as well.
I move to approve ordinance 849 imposing a temporary moratorium on a submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of any license application for all short-term rentals and declaring an emergency with an immediate effective date of October 3rd, 2023.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Just to say that I was very much convinced by Tom's side of things at first, but hearing town staff talk about what they need to do, it convinced me to go the other way.
Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay.
All right.
Mason?
Trustee Gibbs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Sterling.
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahol.
No.
Trustee Mountain.
Yes.
And Trustee Severs.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. The motion passes. There will be a 6-month moratorium on STR applications. And if indeed the PC and town staff feel like they have things to bring to us sooner, they will.
Please do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That concludes our action items for the evening. We are now moving on to a very popular discussion item starring Stephen LaFavor. You want to come up and present?
Okay, well, thank you for entertaining this proposal and taking the time today and.
Real quick, Stephen,
Oh.
Miranda, can you hear Stephen okay on what?
We do.
Sounds good.
Okay, go ahead. You're good.
If you can't hear me out there, I'll speak up. So I submitted the proposal and I'll just give kind of a high level of what we're looking to do and why now's the time to do it. And then any questions you have. To start, for 25 years, Teens Inc.'s been serving the community here in Nederland. Our first capital campaign resulted in our building on Barker Reservoir known as Teens Inc. or the Teen Center. Since then, we've done other capital improvements to that, raising different amounts of money. We serve over 500 young people and kids in the community per year. Over 60 parents participate in our parenting events each year. We have a track record of responding to community needs, and most recently in 2019, as 2 preschools in town were about to close down, which would have left Nederland with no year-round preschool. Our board of directors chose to expand our operations to serve preschoolers when 2 were about to close. Since then, we've learned a lot. We've definitely learned, the biggest things we've learned are that the need far exceeds our ability to meet it. There's no license, and additionally, there's no licensed care for any children under the age of 2.5 years old in Nederland area. We've also learned that the lack of affordable childcare has far-reaching impacts on our community. and COVID shined a really big light on that. It impacts employers' ability to hire and retain employees. It impacts enrollment in our local schools. It impacts families' ability to move to Nederland or stay in Nederland. Much of these you've seen in the letters that are included in the packet. And it has a profound impact on the ability of families to simply make a living. So, and additionally, this issue disproportionately impacts families of lower, moderate economic needs. So one of our goals is, and that always has been, to serve and ensure that we're able to serve those families. And currently that's a big challenge for us to be able to do that in our current facility. So that's why we're here. We want to partner with the town. We want to replicate the model that we have with our facility down at Teens Inc., which is started in '97 with a 99-year lease on the town property with the town for $1 a year. And then Teens Inc. built that building, raised $1 million, and in 3 years, and opened that building on January 2nd, 2000. So we're proposing to do the same thing. And again, to address the urgent community need on town-owned property that is leased to Teens Inc. We'll lead the way, and we'll provide a solution to the immediate challenges, the issues at the current location. The space is licensed for 30, but we can't do that. We can only serve 20 in that safely, 20 children a day safely in that facility. We've invested over $45,000 already to try to improve it. It's simply not sustainable. And as I mentioned, the biggest issue is that it's not meeting the need. This year, we turned away 14 families already, and 52 families are on a list that have inquired about being admitted into New Explorers when their child reaches the age of 2.5. We've been grappling with this issue for over a year. The Teens Inc. board's gone round and round and said, like, should we just do what we're doing and stay the course, serving 20 students a year or a day, and be okay with that? And as a result, if we went that way, we'd have to probably increase costs to families, and we wouldn't be able to serve those families that are most in need. Or the other option is to step up and try to make something happen. And it was a tough decision. It was a big decision that the board didn't take lightly, but 3 months ago made the commitment to do that again, to step up and try to make something better for the community, to serve the community better. So why the old town shop? We've explored other options, and this is the best option that we've been able to come up with, certainly. It provides the most cost-effective option for Teens Inc. to complete the project. It provides the shortest timeline to increase service capacity. It demonstrates a public-private partnership that will be favorable to funders. It will facilitate uninterrupted childcare and preschool, which is key. If we did explore the possibility of adding on, tearing down, doing anything to the property we have there, the likelihood was that it would take longer, and we'd likely have to close the facility for a period of time. And that site really isn't conducive to much bigger of a building with the slopes that it's on. So that leads us here again. So over the last 25 years, we've grown and adapted to meet the needs of the community, and we're ready to do it again. We'll leverage our reputation, our partnerships, our expertise, our track record, our resources to make it happen. We're ready to go. The state's, now's the right time. The state has initiatives for it. The county has initiatives and priorities for it. Peak-to-peak housing and human services has made it a priority. We have an amazing opportunity, like right around the corner in November, to collaborate with consultants who have helped build preschools all around the state. And we're wanting to move forward as quickly as we can to make that a priority and make this happen. So that's the questions that were asked earlier are in the packet. I'm happy to repeat any of those or go into more detail. But we're hopeful that we can get moving on this important project.
Any clarifying questions from the board?
Yeah, I've got one. Stephen, I joined you last Friday night in the neighborhood. Let the board know what you heard, because I think that's important. But I at the same time, I want to tell you I stand with you on this one. And I really admire what you've done in your site selection, well, in your needs assessment, site selection, and so on. But what would you say to the folks in the neighborhood?
I've met with 7 landowners, or actually 7 residents of that area. I really don't know if they're landowners or not. 5 of them have expressed support of the ones I've met. There's might be a few that I have not met with. And I would say that, you know, it's always been a priority of ours to work closely with partners and with our neighbors and landowners, and we would do that. That would be a top priority. That's been our history, and it's our intention to do it again. We have that in you know, history of involving. This last year or 2 years ago, we had 80 stakeholders involved in our strategic plan. We involved the community, we involve our partners, and we would certainly look at landowners in that area. Same way.
Great. Quick question on, you mentioned how much you're oversubscribed. And I think you and I have talked about how many people come to Nederland looking to check off a primary box on the selection list, and they turn around and leave because they can't get a place. Anything to say about that?
Well, I've been, you know, it's come to light more as I've talked about it for me. I think some of the letters talk about that a lot. And I think some of the folks here have stories about that. And one of the things that's kind of was surprising, that digging into this a bit more, is the census has, just in the 80466 area code, which we serve outside of that area code too. There's 188 children under 5 years old in the most recent census. And over a similar period of time, the enrollment at Nederland Elementary School has decreased almost 20%. So not to say that that's exactly this equals that, but I do believe that there is some connection between people going down to Boulder or other areas for care, and then choosing to stay there.
I talked on Friday with our state demographer about that data, and she said it's reflected across many mountain towns. Same, numbers are different, proportions are the same, and the conclusion is the same. So your data was helpful, and we're not alone. There's verification across a broad spectrum.
Stephen, when we spoke, I suggested, because this one piece of land that we have, the Old Town Shop, is also a piece of land that we have dedicated to doing affordable housing. And it's one of the very few pieces that we have. And so I had suggested.
Did we dedicate it? Did we make that dedication as a board?
Previous.
A resolution has been passed by the previous board, yes.
Yeah. And one of the suggestion I offered was, what if we did a land swap? And one of the concerns that was in the packet was, well, what's the difference of the cost between the two? If we were to supply you with the difference of that cost so that you could start on the capital improvement, would you and the board be open to that?
Some of the challenges are timing. I mean, if we're going for what our vision would be, and the vision to serve the community as best as possible, that's an asset that we have got to leverage as best as possible. So, and I think timing is a really critical component for us to be able to move at the pace that we feel is necessary. So providing the difference, I don't know what the town shop site is valued at. I know that ours was valued at $755,000.
So either way, there's a time commitment. If we're going to strike a lease, that's potentially a very complicated lease that's going to take time. If we figure out how to swap land and pay you the difference by accessing, funds that are available for affordable housing, I don't know. I can't tell you right off the bat that it's going to be one's faster or the other, but then you own the land right out, right? And we can even talk about adding on the additional 0.3 by giving, for that 5th Street, giving you a larger piece of land.
So you're saying then it's not a lease?
It's not a lease.
Then I would say I would have to go to our board and you're right. I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
So it would be a board decision of Teens Inc. And that's something that we'd have to look into.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that I would propose, for the rest of us to kind of consider is that so we don't lose a buildable plot for affordable housing. We all get the child care facility, right? We'll pay you the difference of the land between the values.
Yeah.
You own the land outright. Go and do.
Yeah.
The best of both worlds would be if we could just buy the land that they're selling. And we would retain both and we'd lease the other lot to them for $1 a year.
Yes, that would be that would be a great process.
But you guys, I hate to interrupt, but okay, go ahead. I need to speak after you're done.
Yes, that would be in our best interest, but I don't want them to also lose the asset. Well, I guess if we purchase, if we were to purchase it outright, which again, regarding either way, yes, but if you wanted to own that plot, right, for future posterity or whatever, then we'd have to figure out how for them to have that.
So
Right,
my
but
comment,
like what they're asking for is that $1 a year lease, right? So then you don't need to own the old town shop site to make this work.
I don't feel like we need to own.
Yeah.
We want to make it work for the community.
And that way we can guarantee that it's going to be used for that purpose, even if things change at the TNC board level,
Then that potentially makes it even cleaner if you're not wanting to do that. But that is my biggest fear, is that we lose that piece of land that we're supposed to increase our affordable housing stock by 9%, right? So what I'm trying to look for is a win-win.
Yep.
And if that's what gets it, then we know what the offer is that we need to make.
I'm confused
go
about
ahead.
the finances of that, Nicole. We would probably have to pay $500,000 over to Stephen, and then would we just tear down that house, or was your plan just to rent that out in rooms? Or because that seems like crazy to be spending $500,000 on a house you're just going to tear down if you're going to build affordable housing, the smaller units for people. Like, that's the logistics of that, to me, don't make financial sense at all. That $500,000 could be put towards building something on Tilden Park or some of our other land that we do own. I'm just not seeing what the plan is on that with the house that exists there already.
It could be potentially that we rent it out as an affordable housing unit. It's all ready to go. However, the funds that are available to us through the state, there could be the potential that we can access the funds to purchase the land and then to tear it down and rebuild with the amount that's available right now.
Exactly.
It just seems like that money could be put at another lot to be actual build something right away versus $500,000. And then we give to Stephen for that and then tear down the house that we're paying the $500,000 extra for, and then get more money. It just seems like a waste of government money at this point. That's my take on it.
Are we on clarifying questions right here?
Yes,
Sounds like discussion.
clarifying top 3 bullets on the first page. I have a question on the third bullet. it says creating a mixed-use building with childcare on the bottom and housing on the top. I mean, from a child safety point of view, that sounds like a bad idea to me. I mean, wouldn't they need to be just separate footprints on this? If we did housing in part of, say we did this, went with the first bullet and turned it into 3/4 of an acre, did housing in one lot and did childcare in another lot and kind of split it more. To me, that seems safer. What's your thoughts on it?
It seems challenging. I'm not sure how that would work with licensing. And
With,
stuff.
you mean upstairs?
Upstairs, downstairs, and I think our priority, and I'm all for housing. I've been a horrible chair on the housing subcommittee, but I was on the housing subcommittee. I've looked at the lot for housing. I've done, and I'm very much for it. So please know that it's a huge issue. And our priority is being able to serve the amount of kids that are in need of that right now. And if housing on top or even on that parcel, like limited our ability to do that, that wouldn't be ideal from our perspective.
Sure.
Thank you. What other clarifying questions do we have for Stephen on this, or maybe even Miranda or Jennifer on this? If not, we'll go to public comment, because I think we want to have some time for that. Let's just move to public comment, actually.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Stephen. We may need you back up here during public comment or after, and after public comment as well. So we're gonna go with folks in the room. I want to know if anyone has public comment on this discussion item about Teens Inc. and the land at the old town shop site. If so, come on up and have a seat. You need to talk pretty close into that little microphone and state your name and your relationship to town, and you get 3 minutes.
Don't all rush the stage at once.
No one's here for it? All right, next.
Next. Sorry.
Here's 12 o'clock with these.
Hi again. State your name.
State your name, for the folks online. There's a lot of people on, there's a lot of people online.
A lot of people online. Okay, great. I'm excited to be the first one to speak. So my name is Travis Brock. Like I said earlier, I'm a property owner, 75 Wolfman Court. So I'm here as an individual, as a case study here. I'm actually exactly, you'll see in the agenda packet, my letter. I'm a case study for exactly why this is needed here. 8 years ago, my family, we had our first child. We ended up staying in the Netherlands for another 15 months. So our story is that we had a child. We were able to, my wife was able to stay at home for the first few months. We were able to secure a local nanny here to provide individual care for our son. That soon arrangement changed, and we were then forced to look for other care here in town. Nobody took infants, which was a challenge. Everywhere else had an extremely long waiting list. So we made the difficult decision to commute our infant to Boulder for care. My wife worked down the hill. I work up here. So that became extremely challenging for us to be able to commute up and down the canyon with our child. And then ultimately, it became such a challenge for us that we moved down. So I am now a resident of Longmont, and I commute up the hill to work here at Eldora. So that's my personal story. I put my personal cap off now, and I'll put my Eldora cap on. I'm the Director of Mountain Operations for Eldora, and speaking on behalf of Eldora, our biggest challenge is employee housing and childcare. We lose a lot of potential employees due to childcare. We have lots of employees here representing us tonight that are also going through this challenge of childcare and being able to find an appropriate place to be able to have childcare and still be able to make their ends meet and get to work and satisfy their professional obligations. So as an employer in the town, we have a big challenge getting people to be able to commit their time, and we commit a lot of our time and a lot of our effort and a lot of our blood, sweat, tears to them. But we want to be able to have them work for us as well. So that's challenging. Thank you all for all your support coming out here tonight. And I guess you could say I'm part of the solution and part of the problem as well, that potentially the lack of childcare led me to have an STR license in town here. So potentially I'm part of the problem because of the lack of childcare, because that's why we left and we kept our home, because we want to come back and we want to be able to spend time here. We want to be able to raise our family here. And this is a perfect balance for us to be able to do that. And so as a case study, a perfect example of why this is important. And personally too, my property is 200 feet away from this potential land swap. So it does affect me directly, and I would be interested in knowing what happens with that property and how that affects me as a property owner. But I don't really care, to be honest, what happens with that property. I purchased an industrial zone, and I know what the potential ramifications that surrounding me could be. But they have a great place there at New Explorers. It's a wonderful place. It's a great location, and Aspen Grove was an awesome community service too, and I was really sorry to see them go. So I support Stephen, I support the Teens Inc., I support the community in this initiative. So I expect you guys to make the right decision.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Billy, can I ask a question of the?
Oh, you did it.
Hi, Hunter, how are you?
Hi there.
Okay.
My name is Hunter Wright. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Project Development at Eldora Mountain Resort. And I just wanted to share a little bit about our employees. 35% of our employee base lives along the Peak to Peak Highway from Jamestown to Gilpin. 23% of our employee base lives in Netherlands. So this is approximately about 200 people. On behalf of the management and staff at Eldora, we'd like to encourage the Board of Trustees to collaborate with Teens Inc. and help create an early childhood education center. So the expansion of affordable, convenient, and local child care services can be a game changer in Netherlands. Here are some benefits that the expansion of child care facilities can bring to the town of Netherlands. So for working parents, Travis talked about this, gave great example, a personal example. For working parents in mountain communities, access to affordable childcare can be a lifeline. It enables them to maintain stable employment, reducing financial stress, and ensuring that children are well cared for while their parents are at work. Affordable childcare facilities stimulate the local economy by allowing parents to work and spend money locally, creating more full-time jobs. This increased economic activity can support small businesses, create job opportunities, and ultimately enhance the community's financial stability. Convenient childcare options contribute to a healthier work-life balance for parents. This balance not only reduces stress, but also encourages residents to stay in the mountain community for long-term, supporting its sustainability. Quality childcare programs offer early education and socialization opportunities that are essential for children's development. Access to these programs locally ensures that children receive a solid foundation, setting them up for future success. Local child care centers provide a sense of safety and peace of mind for parents, knowing that their children are nearby and well cared for. This confidence promotes mental well-being and fosters a sense of security within the community. Local child care centers reduce the need for long commutes to distant facilities. This not only saves time, but also minimizes the environmental impact, contributing to a more sustainable mountain community. So in conclusion, we're asking you to join Eldora Mountain Resort and supporting Teens Inc. Providing affordable, convenient local childcare in Netherlands is a multifaceted win-win situation. It supports parents in their personal and professional pursuits, strengthens the community fabric, and has a far-reaching economic, social, and developmental benefit. It's not just about childcare, it's about nurturing the heart and soul of the mountain community itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Katrina.
Hello. Katrina Harms, Netherlands resident and the administrator for the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance. And I rushed to follow Hunter because I think she wrote my letter. The peak to peak, because I'm gonna cut mine down a lot because she said everything very, 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 very well. The Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance is a group of local and county nonprofits and governmental entities ensuring health and human services are available and accessible to mountain residents in the peak to peak region of Gilpin and Boulder County. Affordable, accessible childcare is lacking in the peak to peak region, as shown by the significant wait lists and total lack of childcare for kids under 2.5, and for all the reasons that Hunter said. The peak to peak is very much in favor of the project as it meets so many needs in the region in all the ways the town can make a difference. Approving the proposal for the New Explorers Learning Center to build a child care center is really, really the biggest bang for the buck. The Peak to Peak Housing Alliance, Housing and Human Services Alliance, recently finished its work plan for the next 2 to 4 years, and 3 of the 4 areas of focus include affordable housing and housing stability, mental health supports for youth and their families, and workforce and economic opportunity. The Teens Inc. proposal helps with all of these areas in many ways, especially the way Hunter put them. Providing supports like childcare. I mean, then this was my favorite one. This is why I'm going to repeat it. Providing supports like childcare helps keeps families in the community. It puts the kids on path for success in school and will help build support for schools. Children grow up to be youth, and this kind of facilities could help kids and families with mental health and social resiliency. And for all the human services stuff that I do, I might be out of a job. The Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance and Boulder County's Family Resource Networks have prioritized children and families in their work plans. The Peak to Peak Housing and Human Service Alliance subcommittees for housing, workforce, and mental health supports would welcome the opportunity to help make this project successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's up, little dude?
Public comment?
Yeah, Alder?
Have a New Explorers student here.
Hey, pal.
Yeah. Hi, buddy. All right, this is Alder and I'm Jamie Curry. We live on Cold Springs Road, and I wrote something, so I'm gonna read it. As a member of this community and a teacher at Nederland Elementary for nearly 10 years, I see the critical importance of early education and childcare in our town. Those that have had an opportunity to access it come to school with school readiness, a foundation of social emotional skills, and academic strengths. With limited spots available in the 2 NED preschools, not all families are given the ability to provide this for their children. As a new mom, I faced these stressful conditions firsthand when trying to find care for my newly born son right after the pandemic. There were no infant care options available in town, and I needed to return to teaching. With no space at the only option available, I was lucky enough to find private care for the last 2 years, but not all families can afford that or are able to provide that, forcing them into less ideal situations. Now that he's 3, he has a spot at New Explorers, only 2 days a week due to space, but in only that short amount of time, I've seen him grow socially, creatively, and academically. However, so many of his friends can't attend because of the limited space and long wait list, forcing their parents to stay home. Many of those parents were teachers, so we're losing high-quality teachers at the elementary school as a direct result. They have to either drive to Gilpin or Boulder or ultimately move, causing a decrease in families in our community and at our local schools. So with the decreasing enrollment at the elementary school every year, we are losing funding and teachers there. And we need families to stay for the future of this community. So one way we can do that is by providing young families with affordable childcare and preschool options, as Teens Inc. plans to do with this proposal. So now I have an almost 1-year-old, and I'm afraid to be in a similar situation next year with no care for him when I return to work. And I call upon the board to please think of the future of this community and help the children have a safe place to learn, grow, and play in Netherlands by collaborating with Teen Sing.
Thanks. Hello.
I'm April. I live at 850 West Fifth Street. I live in the community.
What's your last name, April?
La Liberty.
Thank you.
And I also, like everybody else, wrote down some points. So my husband and I moved there 7 years ago. We read all the plans for what that site was going to be, because we saw that the Old Town Shop was still standing when I moved in, but it was torn down. We figured something was going to happen there. They told us housing, going to be affordable housing. And I thought, great, okay, we're not going to have to fight anything. Not so. So that was what we were expecting. So as a mom, I don't dispute this community's need for childcare. I get it. My child is now full grown, but I get it. I mean, I dealt with all the issues you're all dealing with. I lived in a small community. I had to drive 45 minutes to bring her to daycare. I think it's common. I think that's pretty common when you live in a rural area. I do dispute this location, however, for childcare. As someone who lives in the community, I'm gonna just say that the surrounding area is not safe for children. I would just throw that out. There are problems with the trailers that are there. We love our neighbors, but some of them are interesting, and there is a transient RV situation that goes on. There are frequently people that pull up that we don't know. They are hunting. I'm sure they've got guns in there. I don't know how stable these people are. We don't know them because they're very transient. Same thing with the trailers. So I would just throw that out there. It would be great if we could do a whole revitalization of the area and address that specific spot. If housing is going to go in, some kind of affordable housing, you said affordable housing several times. It would be great if it could be like green, standalone, like something nice. I don't know if childcare could be part of that revitalization. I just don't know if a 6,000-foot commercial facility needs to be in our residential neighborhood. Again, I'm not saying it's not needed. I just don't think the location is right. As someone who lives there and sees this, day in and day out, what is coming and going, what is happening. I was talking with Tom at a function, and he told me that there's frequently law enforcement dealing with domestic disputes. I don't think that's a safe area for children to be. In closing, I would say that we need to revitalize that whole entire area. It needs to be affordable housing. That's my stance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, April.
April, okay, speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if that's not not a great spot, do you have a recommendation of where it would be a great spot?
Well, Tom said, Tom, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but the AmeriGas facility, no.
I wish.
No.
Well, okay, maybe that was a
That's
pie
off
in
the
sky.
record.
Good to hear, it's good to hear the idea.
Okay.
I don't think this should be
Yeah,
dismissed.
I was just thinking something, I don't know.
If we want something to happen quickly,
Yeah,
that's not the spot to.
Okay,
maybe 20 years.
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
I disagree on that too, but that's a different discussion.
okay.
Yeah, I agree. Let's not dismiss any ideas right now. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello. You guys need a break?
No?
Yes. But
I mean,
no.
yeah. Yes, but not at this time. My name is John Allen. My better half just spoke with you. We own 850 West Fifth Street, and it's been going on 8 years now. This is the old Dyer edition. So just a little context, our house is 107 years old. It's the second mining cabin built there. Chris Larson's was the first. We have a boulder in the backyard that someone had etched in Colorado 1915, and we still find old whiskey bottles in the backyard. Half of our house doesn't have a foundation, and it's sitting on boulders. It's a pretty cool historic property, as is Chris's. I would say that, you know, and I'm not going to sound like a broken record. I have 2 points I want to make. The first one I'll make really quickly. I'm opposed to building a commercial building in our neighborhood. It would directly impact a number of us, and I speak for a number of residents that you're gonna hear from tonight, surrounding that area, that feel as though this would be a great noise, light pollution. If you build a 6,000 square foot, and I don't think you have the footprint to build it there. Does anybody know the size of that property?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 0.46 of an acre. And so
Both sites are
Sean's property next door.
0.46, the trailer park and the town site.
Yeah. And so, by the way, Fifth Street, you can't mess with because that's a 75,000 pound emergency vehicle access for a turnaround for a fire engine there. They need to have that class 6 road-based road there. So I can't really cut into it. So anyway, you've heard enough of this. I feel as though that would directly change the entire scope of our residential neighborhood to have a 6,000 square foot and proposed 60 children, you know, occupancy, which is 120, potentially 120 vehicles a day coming through our neighborhood. That's not why we bought this house. That's not why we bought this property. That's not why we moved into this and selected this residential neighborhood. So we're in strong opposition to this, number one. But now there's a sunny side of this. Rasham's property is also 0.46 of an acre. If you add the two together, back to back, they're the exact same size. You got 0.92 of an acre. And you could easily build 6 to 8 efficiency, affordable homes there and get rid of the trailers. We spoke with Rasham about this. I think she could bite if the town had an interest in helping her get rid of the mobile homes. Now, the mobile homes, when you drive into the area, it's a substandard. You just drive in and look at it. It's a substandard looking neighborhood behind the fire station because of this. And you've got this transient nature without any kind of background checks, whatsoever for, residents that are living there. Rasham doesn't have any kind of process for that. You can have registered sex offenders there. You have numerous, if you check with the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, you have numerous calls to service in the middle of the night for those mobile homes. We're spoiled. We're a little bit protected from that back in the dead end road that we're on. We don't really see that a lot. So the sunny side of this is you could really, we don't need another commercial building in our neighborhood, in a neighborhood that's already blighted and that looks substandard from the front. When you drive in, what we really need is a neighborhood revitalization altogether. And the only way to do that is to remove those mobile homes and build housing there. And, I work with a lot of developers in Longmont, investors and so forth. And I can tell you that there's a lot of options for this. People would be chomping at the bit to invest or develop in this area, to put in affordable efficiency type units there, and keep that ring road, access for emergency vehicles.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Your 3 minutes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You folks could pay attention to the clock, just because so many folks want to talk. Thank you. Appreciate your comment.
Next.
Hi. Hi.
Hey.
I'm Trinity Wells. I live at 175 Skyview Drive North in the Bonanza Estates. And I moved to Nederland specifically to raise a family. I lived in Boulder with my husband. We were married in 2016 and bought a 4-bedroom house in 2017. And we now have 4 children. The last ones are twins. So they are 5. Atlantis is 5. She just started kindergarten. And then Cassius is 3. He's at New Explorers. And Apollo and Dante are both 1, and they're twins, and they're with Leah Gustafson at an in-home care, like in-home nanny care. So this is actually my second time in a Board of Trustees meeting because I came, I think in 2019 in support of Kira Schuler's in-home daycare, Dandelion Play School. And that's where Atlantis went to school. Cassius was like of course, sibling was, pre-enrolled, had him in 2020, and she closed fall 2020, and we were without childcare. We weren't even, like acquainted or toured with New Explorers. And I aggressively called Karen and just like fought my way in. And like, she just started on Fridays, like I was like, I will take anything to get my child into New Explorers. And at that time I had planned to return to work and couldn't. Like I started back with one client and then couldn't go back to more. And ultimately we decided to enroll Cassius in Eagle's Nest so he was at the time too young to be, like Atlantis was just 2.5. So starting in the new year after, 3 or 4 months off, we enrolled him in Eagle's Nest. And so he was there for 22 months, and I have some personal stats here. So my first personal stat is money that we spent outside of Nederland on childcare. We spent $25K over 22 months into Eagle's Nest and Gilpin. We would have paid another $8K to get Fridays. They do not offer Fridays. When we couldn't manage the drive anymore, we hired an au pair. So then we were paying for someone out of the country to come for $18K. So that's $51K for one kid for over 22 months that we spent outside of Nederland that I would love to spend here, right? And secondly, there are hours lost. And I'm looking at the time, it was about a part-time job lost in hours. And then the number of times that we talked about moving during that period, it was like every week. Like we talked about moving all the time. And now with more stable childcare for us, we're the lucky ones because I'm a veteran and I like get in there and I like, I'm making sure that I get that childcare. We aren't talking about it anymore. And that's the difference, it's childcare. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trina.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Jennifer Carreau. I am a Nederland resident, a Nederland parent, a Nederland business owner, and also a board member of Teens Inc. I am not going to reiterate all the things that all these people say because you've read it all and we've heard it. But I do want to say thank you to the board for listening to us. I want to say thank you to everyone here for supporting us. And I just want to say that I think that solving the gap of childcare in Nederland will be a boost for the community. And I want to address the land swap, if I might. As a board member, I would please encourage you not to think of that. We would like to take the ball and run. I am also for housing, affordable housing, but I think that land swap would slow things down. And I also don't think that piece of property would really serve your needs either. So if it comes back to the board, that's how I will present it to for the TNC.
And why don't you think it would support our needs?
I don't think it's a buildable property. We've already looked into trying to add onto the house or even tear it down and build something bigger. It's just on that slope is not gonna really fill, I think it's 7 apartments that you guys are trying to.
Oh, but it doesn't all have to be on that one site. If we have just one unit on that one site, then that gets us closer to the overall pie that we have to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're not trying to, no, let me be clear on that. We're not trying to put like 7 or 9 units on that one site. No.
And with Prop 123, which we sent on to, we could potentially get money for land acquisition.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, as a board member, would you be open for us purchasing that property?
I would encourage going with the proposal that we have submitted to you. I think it's the best bang for our buck. I think it's the best bang for our buck. I think it's the best use of time. If we try to finagle things and make different arrangements, it's just gonna put us way behind in both in timing and financial.
So your expectation would be that it would put things back if we were gonna try to make it all happen before you built. That's not necessarily has to happen. We don't necessarily, I mean, but you're wanting to probably sell part of that property or to sell the property in order to finance your capital expenditure. So you're gonna have to sell it anyway, correct?
So if we were the ones who bought it and we
If
said, hey,
Right,
take your time, build your thing, cause
Build
we
it.
bought it from you,
Yeah,
we
but
know
I'm
what you
also
want to
not
do.
so sure that we want to be landowners, that owning that land is.
That's
in our best
fine.
interest.
If we would still lease it to you, we'd say, here, yes, you got it, 99 years, $1. We want to be able to purchase the other property so that we can build out our obligation of affordable housing.
Well, that's up to you guys. That's what our proposal is. Yeah. I mean, we want to sell the property and move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Ariel Gustafson. I've worked at Teens Inc. for 8 years. I'm a parent of 1.5-year-old, and I'm not going to repeat. I agree with what so many of the parents have said. I am somebody who had question marks about whether I could go back to a job that I loved, working within this community, and I found out I had a child, and I was super lucky and was able to figure it out. But I know that so many families are not as lucky as I am. The other piece that I wanted to just somebody who's worked inside Teens Inc., I just want to speak to the integrity and quality of programming that organization provides under the leadership of Stephen LeFevre. I think it would be a huge missed opportunity for our community to not give this opportunity to an organization that's proved its track record, not only with quality programming and really putting families first and youth first, but also making sure that it's not only the privileged few who have access to things and have access to experiences for their youth, but also that the families who are struggling the most have equal access to all those things. And I think there's just a long track record of integrity for that. And it would be a real shame, I think, if our community didn't take advantage of this opportunity.
Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Shanna Fitzgerald, and I've lived in Nederland about 30 years. And over that time, I've definitely seen, obviously, a lot of changes. And I think one of the things that I keep hearing is this sort of competition between affordable housing and necessary childcare for the community. But ultimately, if you think about what those are needed for, they're for people to be able to work and thrive and live, and for employers to have the help that they need. So I think there's not so much a competition between the two. They're all both completely integrated and highly necessary. And I'll also say that I too am on the board of Teens Inc. And I'm completely so impressed by everything that the organization does. And when this community needed childcare, it was Teens Inc. that they stepped in. So down the road, if this weren't to happen and this were a need, who else would step in, and who better than Teens Inc. with a 25-year track record? And you also think about the fabric of the community, and if families are not going to be the residents of the community as much because they need to go somewhere else for childcare, who then is part of the fabric of the community, and how will that be strengthening the community or not? I think families are critical to a strong, connected, healthy, thriving community. And without families, I think there are a lot of other forces that may be drawn into Netherlands that wouldn't be as healthy and thriving. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to specifically ask just for, if someone is not for this idea, I'd like to ask for you to talk next. Because I want to keep mixing this up as much as we can. And that's fine. I just want to be fair. Okay. Next person.
And that's really brave and vulnerable too for those humans. So I want to own that. I'm Andrea Bianchi. I have lived and worked in the Netherlands area since 2009. So I won't go into the parent part. I am a parent of a 2.5-year-old. I am one of the very fortunate humans who has childcare that I can afford now, which is awesome. The other points that I just want to lift up, I'm also somebody who supports our alternative education here in Nederland at Chinook West Alternative High School, where it is really challenging to find high quality educators to support our students, some of them who are struggling the most in our community. And childcare has been one of the biggest challenges that we have faced in the last couple of years. So that is something that is super important. We heard from an elementary school teacher earlier. I know this is a challenge for folks at Nederland Middle Senior High School as well as our alternative high school, and all the other humans that support Teen Sync functioning. And then the last piece is thinking about extracurricular opportunities or experiences for our youth. Having an opportunity to partner with early childhood education. We have so many students who are looking into that kind of opportunity, and that would be another great way to collaborate, having our alternative high school students, the Nederland Middle Senior High School students, not have to go down to the canyon, be on a wait list for Boulder Tech, but to be able to access those things in their own community, thinking about early childhood education, which again, that like whole ripple effect, we're supporting just our community growing and being stronger. Yeah. So thank you for considering this. You're great.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
Right. Hello, my name is Jenna Ovet, and I am an area resident up on Ridge Road. My daughter Ariana is 10 months old, and I very much support this. Even just hearing everyone, tell their stories is like bringing tears to my eyes, because I'm currently going through not having childcare and we're piecing it together, and it's really hard. And so this would just fill a really big need in our community. And, I think the alternative of going down to Boulder is just a shame, to lose that community that we're building up here. And I just really hope that you would vote in favor of this. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I was actually gonna speak, but I don't think I need to sell anybody on.
What's your last?
Heiberger.
Thank you.
I don't think I need to sell anybody on the childcare. I think we know we need it. I have very similar experience to Trinity with the money. I mean, I'm doing the math in my head, it's probably like $70,000 we probably spent in Boulder. My question though, I think came up is the location. So based on dissenting opinions, what is the zoning of the location that's proposed? Do we know? Because I've heard residential, I've heard industrial, we're business owners in another town. I know how this works. And I'm curious because I feel like that's kind of the sticking point for some of the residents there. So did they buy a property and it was zoned residential? Is this industrial? I don't know.
It's zoned
So-
public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Owned
What
by
is
the
that?
town.
Because the town owns it.
Because the town. owns it.
Okay.
So right now, there's a use group table for publicly zoned land in the
Okay.
Netherlands code, which currently doesn't allow for a childcare center. So we would need to amend the code. in
Okay,
order for
that was my curiosity. It's like there would need to be an amendment. And I just wanted to make sure that this property, it keeps getting brought up by dissenting opinions that it's residential, but it's not actually residential. So when properties were purchased,
It's surrounded
Surrounded
by
by residential.
got it, okay.
It's
Just
one,
wanted
yeah,
to clarify that. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Michelle. Any other comments in the room?
Come on down. I'll be quick.
Hi, my name is Laura Albright Brown. My husband and I are longstanding residents of Nederland. I'd like to start out by recognizing Stephen for his outstanding leadership all these years with Teens Inc. and all that he's done for the community, as well as the amazing New Explorers staff. We are lucky to have full-time care for our son there. That hasn't always been the case. We were one of the people on the wait list that did impact our family directly. One of us had to stay home even though we could have been working. So from my own personal experience, we do need more childcare. But I'm really just here to support Stephen and the New Explorers staff. They're all here tonight, even though they've been working all day taking care of our kids. So it shows how important this is that they're all here. But I think some of you, most of you know, I work at the elementary school. I have for a long time. I provide childcare to a lot of your children. And at the same time that I provide care, or Jamie, who is here tonight, or other staff members that we have an ongoing issue where our own staff don't have care for our own kids. We have other staff members in our building right now who have been teachers in the building for a long time, and they don't have the care that they need for their kids. So even though this has already been expressed, I wanted to say it again. There are deficits in the community where we're losing quality staff in our schools or other community service areas because the people who provide those jobs don't have the childcare that they need. So this does have an impact not only on the basic economy and needing childcare, but on the quality of other care and community services that we can provide. So I think that regardless of the site issues, the town needs to come together and figure out a way to get this new facility up and running as soon as possible. And a new facility is definitely a better way to go. I drive through the current neighborhood to go to New Explorers daily now. And I don't think that Stephen and his staff would be able to expand that site. It definitely makes sense to look at a new site. And again, super shout out to all the NELC staff. We love you.
Hello, my name is Laura King and I live at 555 Meadow Lake Drive in Gilpin, but have lived in Nederland the last 9 years. I don't have a young child, I have a 14-year-old, but when he was in elementary school, Stephen and I were on the school accountability committee, and we watched the struggle that the elementary school had with keeping 2 teachers per grade level because of declining enrollment. That extends also into the middle high school in terms of what can be available if we don't have enough students. If people get used to taking their kids down, they do tend to stay down the mountain. I would also say that Teens Inc. and Stephen LeFevre have a really good track record, and that I would urge you guys to take decisive action and get this done. A lot of people in town need this. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Any other comments in the room? If not, we'll go.
There's more.
Oh my God. Who are you?
Karen Campbell, Director of New Explorers Learning Center, and I wouldn't be if it wasn't for Teens Inc. And we wouldn't have a preschool right now. So please, please look at this closely. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen.
Happened to you, buddy?
I crashed my mountain bike. So my name is Austin Maceros. Never been at one of these, never spoke at one of these. So sorry if it's not as constructive as the rest of them. But I just want to maybe give a little bit different perspective. I've lived in town for the past 6 years. I've dealt with the affordable housing, trying to find a housing. I've been homeless. I've dealt with all that. But honestly, in my personal opinion, the number one topic at this discussion is the teen center, getting childcare. I have friends that they're single dads, single parents, their families, they struggle to find childcare, take care of their kids. And like I said, I've dealt with trying to find housing in the town. And the way that I see it is if you really want to be here as a single person or like as a couple, you'll make it happen. Adding a child into the situation adds a whole nother element to it. You're not just taking care of yourself at that point. You're taking care of another child. And in my opinion, the future of this town falls a lot on the children that live here, that grow up here, tell their friends about it, tell their family about it. They want to stay here. They want to build a family here. So I think in the long run, the teen center, as much as affordable housing is very important, and I think it is necessary, I think the number one topic is childcare. Like I said, just trying to offer a different perspective. I'm not a parent. I would like to be one day. And if I...
Do we have any single ladies in the field?
That's not what I was trying to, that's not what I was trying to get. And I'm just saying, like, as far as like not having a family, I love this town. Like I said, I've been here for 6 years, so I would like to build a family here. I would like to have a family here, but right now, I already think about buying a house, settling down, let alone being able to support a child on top of my housing. So like I said, I don't want to waste you guys' time. I want to keep it short and simple, but I just want to try to offer a little bit different perspective of someone that's not a parent that would like to be a parent one day and wants to think about my future in the town of being able to support a family and a child in this town. So
Thanks for talking.
thank you.
Hey, Austin, that was a super selfless thing to say. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyone else in the room? Thank you. But now I need to go to the folks online.
It's your classic plant.
If you folks online, go ahead and raise your hand or just start talking.
Janine was the first to raise her hand, and then Chris, and then Christine.
Okay, thank you. You said Janine?
Oh, Jean. Yeah. Hi. Sorry. I can't turn my camera on for some reason. I just wanted to offer a perspective. My husband and I own a home at 2 Sundown Trail, right next to the elementary school. And we are one of the folks who had to leave Nederland because of childcare. So we have 2 children under the age of 2, and it was too taxing to have no childcare up in Nederland. We both work full time, and we unfortunately had to relocate to Boulder. We still own a home in Nederland, which is long-term rented, and we hope to come back, but it is extremely challenging. So I cannot express my support enough for getting childcare for folks under the age of 2.5 and expanding access for those above that. That is all.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Chris?
Yes, hi, my name's Chris Grau. I'm the landowner of 470 Colson, just next to the old town shop site. And I'm opposed to this proposal. I feel like it would increase traffic in the neighborhood. It would definitely add to instability in quite a quiet area. It would add to daytime noise in a residential area, along with light pollution. I also feel that a commercial building in the middle of a residential area would create spot zoning. Everything surrounding the old town shop site is zoned medium density housing. If housing is such a critical need of Nederland, it makes sense to me to keep what is already primarily a residential area, keep it residential, and put affordable housing on that area. So I urge you to keep the cohesion of the area that's already in existence and use the old town shop site for housing. Thank you.
Christine?
Thank
Hi.
you, Chris.
Hi, I'm Christine Jacques, and I don't think we have a trend going here with Christines, do we? Anyway, I live in Coal Creek. I started living in Colorado on Magnolia, then I lived on Ridge and met my husband over there. So I feel like I don't have a child in this fight, but I do have a concern. And it's that I don't want Ned to look like me. You know, I don't have kids, not going to have grandchildren, but I know that we need to invest in a workforce of the future. And that means investing in the workforce for today. What we have here is a national problem with a local solution. And this, yeah, admittedly is imperfect, but this is what we can do right now. We need to do it before the opportunity slips away. So I'm hoping that you will consider saying yes to this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Brent?
Hi, everyone. Brent Tregaskis here, the general manager and president of Eldora. I won't go into my whole speech that I wrote earlier, but I would just echo the vocal majority that spoke tonight, including a couple of my staff members. But it just, speaking of someone who's just gone through a very difficult situation with Ignite, the adaptive ski school at Eldora, where that's a 501c3. We, after years of negotiating, have kind of worked a partnership with them. We're building a multi-million-dollar building that they'll be, they have half of, and we have the upper half. And it's, anything like that is difficult, like what you're trying to do here, because there's a lot of, there's still some pain and suffering for somebody, no matter what we do. But I think it's so important for the community to have a situation where people can put their kids, young kids, in a place that's safe and good and get an education is super valuable. It affects our employees, like we've already echoed, but more importantly, anything that's worth doing is not going to be easy. And so I understand the difficulty in making a decision like this and some rules that may have to change, but I fully support the Teen Zeke effort, and I just don't think there's a finer entity that could take this on and make it happen. And I think it's going to take some heavy lifting from the town, but I think we all know it's the right thing for the community. So I would encourage the town to support the project.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Thanks.
you being with us.
Kenneth?
Hey, this is Ken O'Donnell, resident of 900 West 5th Street, landowner there. So a couple of houses away from the Old Town shop site. I would echo my neighbors. I had the opportunity to talk with Stephen last week, and it was a good conversation. And I'm definitely sympathetic to the need for a preschool, a child care center. This specific neighborhood seems like maybe not an ideal place for it. It's pretty small. The proposal that Stephen emailed, I believe everyone in the area said 60 plus children, just pretty massive. I can't imagine that would be a 10, 15, 20 fold increase of traffic in the area, all times a day on pretty small little dirt roads next to the fire station. I heard some of the trustees mention being sensitive to the rights of the property owners. Okay, so Stephen mentioned that he believed he had support of 5 of 7 people he spoke to. I don't know that that's accurate. I'm sympathetic to it needs to be somewhere, but I expressed that as had been mentioned by the board, something like affordable housing, some more comprehensive, something appropriate for the location, and housing seems to be a high priority as well, might be a better fit for the area. And as opposed to a large 2-story, 6,000 square foot property with a lot of traffic in and out all the time. The Stevens proposal that he emailed all of us also mentioned that they want to work with $3 to $4 million. That seems like a robust enough amount of money to be able to find an appropriate place for a preschool that doesn't necessarily fit into the realm of like, let's find the quickest way to make this happen, to heck with who lives around the area. So I don't know. I haven't heard anyone who lives in the immediate area who's expressed support yet. We do support the general idea. I do support the general idea, and I think it should happen. But wow, let's be considerate about where this can fit well. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Ken. Before we take any more public comments, I need to make a motion to extend the meeting. For now, I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:15. Not knowing how many people online still, I don't know that we'll need much time afterwards, but maybe. So I make a motion to extend the meeting to 10.
A second.
Motion in a second.
Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Trustee Severs?
Yes.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold?
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon?
Yes.
And Trustee Mountain?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Is there any more public comments from the folks online?
Yeah, I'm a trustee, but I'm also a neighborhood resident. And I want to pick up on the last comment. I'm a neighborhood resident that owns 3 properties in the neighborhood. I would support Stephen's position. My wife does not. So we're kind of split on that one, but I think that I agree with the previous point about the neighborhood needs some redevelopment. I'd love to see Rasham is a private property owner. I'd love to come to some sort of accommodation. We haven't even begun negotiations, but I think we can do more than one thing in that space. And as an owner of 3 properties in the neighborhood, and there's not that many, I'm supportive. But my wife and I are not unanimous.
Thanks, Tom. Zoe, my wife Zoe and I don't agree on everything.
That's a thing?
Any more comments from the folks online?
I did have to mute a call-in user, so *6 for a call-in user, if you want to speak.
This is Tanya. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is just a discussion item, so we're not really making our decision today. I am.
So, go ahead, and then I was going to direct the question to Miranda as soon as we're done with public comment about specifically what they would need regarding.
I thought we were getting. I'm not a public, so I mean, I thought Tom was talking.
He was giving that as
oh, gotcha. Yeah.
as a
So no,
neighbor.
I'll wait for my comment then.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyone else online from the public would like to give a comment? If not, we will bring it back to the board for.
Carolyn raised her hand.
Hi, this is Caroline Bennett. I don't really have a whole lot more to add to the I agree with the supporters. I'm definitely on that boat. I just wanted to voice my support. I would actually be at the meeting, but I'm so damn tired because I'm often solo momming and I have a 5-year-old at Nederland Elementary and I have to take my 2-year-old down to Boulder. I work full time like a lot of people. It takes 2 working people in the household because of the cost of living up here. So the realistic scenario to be sustainable here is to have expanded childcare options and to definitely include children under the age of 2.5. It's just been, I mean, it's like caused that same conversation about moving, but we love it here so much that we just bend over backwards and are like on the brink of divorce sometimes because of the trials and tribulations of childcare and affordable childcare at that. Any childcare and affordable childcare. So just have had only wonderful things to say about Teens Inc. and Stephen and Karen, especially Karen, and just the operations that they run. And I have full faith and trust that whatever they do, once given the green light, will be amazing for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Appreciate it. Yes, we have a comment from someone in the room. Go ahead, Andrew.
My name's Andrew Dewart, longtime Nederland resident and business owner, and in support of this measure and kind of wanted to speak to it from the flip side because I'm a neighbor currently of the existing New Explorers location, and can just speak to it not really, in my opinion, causing tons of traffic. I know what we're talking about is a larger building, but what a joy it is to see all the kids every day playing. So if in fact, you choose to do this, I'll be sad to see New Explorers leave, but I certainly haven't felt like it's been an undue burden on the neighborhood or the street or anything like that. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Any other comments? If not, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. And I guess Miranda, I'd like to ask you point blank, what, when I look at the you want direction, but specifically it says, how would the BOT like to proceed? So what do you have any specifics you want to give us?
Yeah, I think as staff, we just want to know, do you want us to keep this conversation going? I think that's really the question is to get better understanding from Stephen and teams, like really crafting what the specific final ask is that the board would be voting on. Other considerations would be to direct staff to work on figuring out what the property values are of the Old Town Shop lot versus the New Explorers lot. But really just need direction on where you want us to go. But I think ultimately it boils down to, do you want staff to keep talking with Stephen about how this proposal would ultimately work?
Okay, thanks. Tanya, what did you want to say?
What did I want to say? I wanted to say that I am in favor of this for the most part because of all the reasons everybody said. And I just know that teens is amazing. He's done a great job in helping so many of our teens. And I want to say as a parent, to have one preschool right now, when we had two when my kid was that age, that funnels into the kindergarten, which there were 2 kindergarten classes. I'm thinking this is going to lead to lower enrollment for kindergarten, which then every year we lose kids to Boulder. By the time they get to high school, we've lost about half the kids, at least, to Boulder. And so if we can stop that what's the word when they go to Boulder? If we can stop that.
Brain drain.
If we can stop that from happening, and there's nothing wrong with that. People have great reasons for choosing different schools, but if we can, start with a higher number in the first place, that's just going to help our schools, because there's, by the time you get to high school, by the time these kids are born, there may not be a high school. And that's really important for our community, as important as housing. Is one of the major important things, I think, is that we have a vibrant school and kids and families, and we're not, so that, and we have somebody who's willing to do this right now, because I'd be like, okay, well, there's a need, capitalism, let it happen. But it's not happening. It hasn't happened. And, I don't hear anybody else saying they're starting a preschool infant care center in Ned anytime soon. So I would say, to Stephen, please make sure there's no other options, because it's true. The budget of $3 to $4 million would probably allow for the purchase of a property if there were one available. From what I gather, there is not anything available. So I think that's why he came to us. I'm sure this is the last kind of choice. And the other concern, I hear the neighbors that it will be impactful. Anything's going to be impactful, especially compared to what's there now. And there's a concern about what's going on in the trailers and all that. That it feels like that should be another discussion. And hopefully that they'll mitigate that if there is a school there. So, I'm in support of this. I'm not really in support of the swap. I feel like we could do better financially, instead of giving $500,000 for this house. That would definitely be good for a family or whatever, or 3 or 4 roommates. Is that really what we're doing? Are we looking to be landlords as a town? So I think we're not ready for that yet as a conversation, to just buy a house. But if you guys want to buy the house, basically it's going to be for sale. We can buy it. We can buy any house. So if there's money available for buying houses, for affordable housing, then we can go out and buy houses and do that. I don't think it has to be as a land swap. That's my thoughts.
What we're deciding tonight is, what to advise town staff.
I advise to continue conversations with this.
Yeah.
And I'm personally not in favor of the land swap, but that if the majority of you guys are, they can keep talking about that. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Anybody else online? Yeah, we might as well finish them online.
There are no more public comments.
No, I mean, Tom.
Oh, John and Tom, anything else you'd like to say?
As a trustee, I'm support of what Stephen is recommending because Stephen recommends it. I think he's looked at 6 other options and decided this is where he wants to be. And I would support him on that. Also, coming back to my favorite moniker of property rights, this is town's property. And we as trustees have to make the best decision for the town. I'm also a neighborhood resident, and I'm married to somebody who is opposed to this. I respect that, but from a policy standpoint, I'm pretty clear. I'd like to move forward with what Stephen is proposing. Supporting my neighbors, I think that we have a public policy issue around that trailer park. I think we can do better than that, and I see exactly the types of things that my neighbors are seeing, and I'm concerned. It's not only above the ground, but below the ground. I think we've got infrastructure issues that are leaking sewage into the neighborhood. And there's a lot of reasons I think we can do better with that property, but that's a longer discussion. But when you have 0.46 plus 0.46, you've got a piece of property you can work with. And so I guess we come back to what are we directing town to do? I think we keep the discussion open, but I come back to what I said earlier in the evening, much earlier in the evening, unfortunately. What are we trying to what's our process to getting to a decision? Eric, those are the words you use most often, and I'm just I'm reflecting on what you've educated me on many times before. How do we get to a decision from a policy standpoint? And I really don't like giving ambiguous discussion or ambiguous instructions to town on where to go next. So trustees, help me with what we're telling town to do.
I've got a few suggestions, if I might.
Yes, John.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
It's perfect.
I didn't step on anything else you needed to say, did I?
No.
Okay. I would ask if we haven't already had some conversations directly, either from the town side or BOT side, to have some discussions with Tom, see what that conversation sounds like. With regard to
with Rashawn, conversation with
Yep.
Rashawn. Right?
I'm sorry, is my mic acting up?
But not too much.
But that is a
No.
different property that we're not really discussing right now.
I see. Okay, so
We have to get direction on what to move forward with this.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So then my questions would be, have we done a survey to see how much affordable housing we're going to displace if the trailer park was part of the conversation? And how much cost that would incur to rehome those folks, because we can't just go around displacing people to try to place people in affordable housing. It just doesn't make sense.
I think you're right. At the moment, though, that is not something that's even an option for us. So you're
Okay.
right. But right now, what we're talking about is what kind of guidance do we give the town to proceed with regards to the land that we do own that won't displace anyone because it's vacant presently.
Gotcha.
And or looking at the properties. If you look at the top of the aim, those 3 options, those 3 bullets at the top of the aim.
Absolutely. Well, if we're talking about the lease option, which I don't know if that's the speediest option, then I would look into the options of actually building some kind of bulletproof, at least 10-year, maybe 10-year plus sort of agreement that cannot be disposed of at a future date by any other entities or boards. I don't know if that's a possibility. I guess I'd ask that mostly of Attorney Madsen, but that would be one thing. And then the other would be, and this is just to try to keep the conversation alive for the swap, right? I'm fully in support of doing what's best for this town. I also want to quote Eric on this. He said our job would be easy when all we do is express the needs of the town and become the voice of the town effectively. And I feel like we've heard that voice. We've heard seasoned business owners come forward with actual background data and baseline information to kind of help bolster this as a much needed benefit for the town. We've heard the majority of towns speak up. So I think my thought is this is a very easy yes. And I don't understand why it can't be something we can accelerate very quickly. It just seems like a no-brainer. So how can we make this a no-brainer? Would be the question, I guess. That's a big question, but how can we make it quick and a no-brainer and have other alternative options for the affordable housing, which is much needed as well, and not push that too far down the road?
Yep. I move to extend the meeting until 10:20 p.m.
5 minutes.
Second.
Macy? Thanks, John, for those comments, and thanks, Tom and Tanya, for yours. We just gotta do this so we can wrap up.
Okay, so that was trustee Coombs Ismail who made the motion. Who seconded?
I did.
Thank you.
One question before we vote. What was it we're gonna do with the 5 minutes? Just wrap it up?
Do exactly
Direct
what
staff,
do what
yeah.
you've asked for. Give them specifics.
Okay.
I have some ideas.
Me too.
Oh,
10 minutes?
I'll give it 5 minutes.
Actually, would you accept the friendly amendment
I'll accept the friendly amendment
for 10
to
minutes?
10:25.
That's from Jesse made a friendly amendment for 10 minutes to 10:25. I'll second that.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to.
10:35,
25.
25, seconded by Sterling.
10 minutes just to pass the motion.
I know, but it's,
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
trustee Mountain,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
yes,
and trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was just gonna say that I think that we should direct town staff to determine the property values of each property. I do think that we should direct town staff to investigate state funding opportunities for purchasing properties.
Second.
Prop 123.
I think that, that we should start to outline, in conversation with Stephen, with, the Teen Sync board, what a lease would look like, what the protections would look like, particularly including if the project was not completed and what would happen then. And as well as what would happen if it weren't in operation, for a certain period of time. That there should be triggers included in that lease that would take effect if those things were to come to pass. So I do think we should look at what that might look like so that we can have something to actually discuss when we bring this to a subsequent meeting, because we're not making any decisions today. And I think that town staff, along with, I would hope the town attorney would participate in that process to continue those conversations, to bring something to us that made sense from a legal point of view for the town and included those protections. And I just want to stress, we can't make a decision tonight. So I don't want to disappoint anyone there, but that we can get to somewhere where we can make a decision. And that still might not be yes, right? But we can continue the conversation to get to that point at least.
But Eric, I knew we could count on you for process, so thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Do you want to go? Okay.
I'm in favor of moving forward with this and continuing discussions, obviously. In favor of, supporting Stephen's proposal. And I am most favorable towards the bullet point number 1. I'm not interested in the New Explorers building as a town acquisition as a property. I think that should be considered on its own merits and separated from this proposal as to whether or not we want that property or not. It is likely to become on the market. I don't think it's an interesting property for us to pursue. I think there's others that are more interesting, and it doesn't need to be considered here. Maybe if we want to be in the business of pursuing and acquiring property, it could be one that we consider, but I think that's a separate discussion. And, but I do like bullet point number 1. I also feel that bullet point number 3 has some merits where we could look at a mixed use and some potential affordable housing on the second story, if that were to be favorable to New Explorers and Teens Inc. Board and leadership. So, but I do very much like point number one, and I'm very in favor of pursuing this conversation.
I'll go next and be quick. I support Jesse or what Jesse just said, and I won't belabor it.
So the only thing that I would add is that I do think that if we were interested in the property of New Explorers, that it is a part of this conversation. I don't see it as separate. And so the other direction that I would give is for town staff to look into the possibility of that we would at least have both, like a first right of refusal, right? And I think that that's a perfectly okay thing for us to ask. We do have a target that we have to hit. And so what I see is this is like a beautiful way for us to get everything that we want in the community, right? I would also, Miranda, I'd like us to look into the statement that the gentleman said earlier today, that Fifth Street cannot be turned in. It is a right of use for the emergency vehicles. That's the first time I've heard that, and would like that to get investigated, unless you have an answer off the top of your head right now.
No, that's actually the first time I've heard that as well. And we met with the fire marshal when preparing the staff statement, and he didn't bring that up. So definitely, I had already wrote that down as something to look into. So absolutely, we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. So yeah, so in general, all for, let's look at the lease, let's look at the sale, let's look at the property values, let's investigate the state funding available through Prop 123 and also through phase 2 of our Nederland housing study. And we'd love to see all that.
Data.
My big reason for wanting to look into state funding for purchasing properties, that I think that if we're going to lose affordable housing land, then it would make sense to simultaneously be looking for alternative ways of getting land for affordable housing. Doesn't necessarily have to be that property, right? It could be something else, but I don't think that we can sleep on that. I think we got to do it at the same time. We're going to lose this land now, right? If we were to.
Yeah.
And I think it is worth just saying that, like, I hear the concerns of neighbors. I don't really understand them. Personally, I don't understand why a childcare facility would be, like, it seems to me it wouldn't actually be that much of a burden on a community, on a neighborhood. I don't really understand it. I hear it. I get that changing the character of a neighborhood is never something that anybody really loves to happen, unless it is really just to make open space. That usually is the thing that's most supported. But in this particular case, I don't fully understand. So I would love, if any of those folks are still on, reach out. I would love to talk to you about it because I don't get it.
Yeah. And one last thing is, what I don't want this to turn into is what we've heard over previous boards, that nothing moves forward in this town. Not going to happen. So if anything, like, I think that you hear that there's a commitment that we'll figure out a way. It's just the how right now, right? It's just figuring out the how, because we got to look at everything in the landscape. We've got to look at the housing. We've got to look at the childcare. We've got to look at everything. But we hear very clearly, this is not going to be one of those things that gets stymied. If we need to lock ourselves in a room to figure this out and come to a consensus, then we will.
No, we will have to.
Yeah. And so that's just not one of these things that I think this board is committed to. This is constant stymieing. We're here to get you.
I have
stuff done.
one more direction for town staff. If town staff could help look at, I personally prefer updating the use group table for publicly zoned land rather than rezoning. That would be my preference. I don't know about other trustees, but I would like to see a couple of examples of both of those put in front of us.
One response, our housing subcommittee, Eric, has already put together tables, potential tables. And I think we've got something to look at and make a decision as a board.
But that, just really quick, the housing committee is not working on the childcare portion of use group table. That would be a different section, but yes, agreed that the work being done by the planning commission housing helps with the larger housing conversation.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I would warn against the false dichotomy that this is the only piece of land that we would ever consider for affordable housing. Our lift from the last meeting, our commitment was seven affordable housing units over 3 years. We'd like to do better, but that's baseline what we're committed to, and it's not the only place to do it.
Right.
I agree. My point was more around the same idea as the lease protections, right? Like if things don't work out, I don't want the land to have been rezoned. Like it would be nice if it were still publicly zoned.
Yeah, this is a similar discussion to dissolving lot lines, which has legacy issues.
Right.
I'd love to say a couple things because we've got 2 minutes. So looking at that neighborhood, someone said it's really all residential. The reality is in that neighborhood, there are other public lots as well as some, I think, what's it called, commercial, light. Neighborhood commercial is also in that neighborhood, as well as medium density residential, as well as public. So all three of those types of zoning are already there, and this lot is not the only public lot in that neighborhood. I do like the idea of potentially looking at zoning use tables instead and keeping the zoning as it is. I think when I look at the aim, the first 2 bullets, I think to me are especially interesting. I mean, I agree with Jamie or Jesse that the first bullet is clean and it's really kind of, well, he likes that one, and I like that in many ways, and want to know more about that history, emergency vehicle thing. I think it's also worth just doing the research on the land swap and seeing what that is worth. That piece of property may be part of our affordable housing portfolio or not, but if we don't research it, we won't know if it's a good way to go. I'm not a fan of the mixed use up and down thing. I think I would direct staff to research mixed use. To me, it seems like they would need to be separate though, and not on top of each other due to housing and the safety of kids and child care.
1125 or 1025 here, 1125 here.
I would ask for a nod of 4.
Nod.
We got 4 in the room, so that is only. And
I
actually,
moved to
what I would ask you folks, are you nodding on the?
You're nodding on the inside.
Are you, Tom and John? I think Tom's nodding.
It isn't, we have.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of that discussion item. Is there any other business?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
But if we could have that first 15 minutes back, what more could we got done?
Oh, I know we've been done 10 o'clock.
All right, you ready? Mayor
We're
Billy,
ready.
Yes.
Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mohold,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Trustee Coombs Isma.
Yes.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned at, what time is it?
10:26.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Well done, folks. Well done.
See you, folks.